Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. It's 5 p.m. This is a special meeting of the Pacific Grove City Council. I'll ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Peak,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams,
Here.
Council members Emilio,
Here.
Coletti,
Here.
Paduri,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
and Tomlinson.
Here.
All are present in person with Mayor Pro Tem via Zoom webinar.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now turn to the agenda. Staff's asked for removing item 6A, that's the Housing Trust Fund, due to late breaking developments. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams,
Aye.
Council members Emilio,
Aye.
Coletti,
Aye.
and Paduri. Motion carries 7-0 to approve the agenda as amended.
Now move on to council and staff announcements. We'll start with our city attorney. Any announcements? Our city manager?
Yes, Mayor, I just want to let the council know that we convened a very successful tabletop incident command system and emergency operations center training today at Asilomar. It was an effort coordinated and led by the Monterey Fire Department and the Pacific Grove Police Department and included approximately 30 members of staff walking through a half-day exercise. It was very successful. We're very pleased, and we anticipate doing more of these going forward. Thank you.
And Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank everybody. I don't think I can run through names, so I won't even try, but the chamber for sure for taking the lead on Good Old Days. It was fabulous. I got to go both days and just seeing all of the work behind the scenes and noticing everything was extraordinary. And that was wonderful to be out with, it's been 3 years since we could enjoy the city together like that. So thank you for everybody.
Councilmember Emilio.
Thank you. Just to let you know, I wasn't, been missing a couple of days. My brother passed away and I'm back. So that's why I missed a couple of council meetings. Thank you.
We'll now move on to general public comment. Do we have anyone present in person to speak? Welcome.
In council and mayor. Sorry, I'm getting my notes. You went fast. So thank you, Councilwoman Tomlinson, for recognizing the work that goes into Good Old Days. I just wanted to reiterate an email that I sent to City Council earlier this week saying extreme gratitude that we have for the city's support, the police department, the public works department, Monterey Fire Department, and all of our community partners. We have so many of them that I literally can't list the number of them today, but I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us, and it was really nice to see the community out this weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. Any public comment from our virtual audience?
Mr. Mayor, I see no hands raised.
I'm sorry, you said no hands raised?
No hands raised.
All right. We'll now turn to the consent agenda. Any council member wishing to pull a consent agenda item? Councilmember Emilio.
I'd like to pull 13B and place that at 11 before 11A.
Okay, 13B is not on the consent agenda.
Oh, okay.
So we will be hearing that.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to pull an item? Seeing none, anyone from the public wishing to pull a consent agenda item?
No hands are raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Kendall?
We'll need a motion first.
Motion
and
to
second.
Oh,
approve.
motion.
Consent, Your Honor.
Second.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams,
Aye.
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Councilmembers Emilio,
Aye.
Aye.
Baduri, and Tomlinson.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. And I'll just quickly summarize what we've just done. Council's approved council minutes from May 4th. And we have approved a proposed contract amendment and reimbursement agreement with Rincon Consultants. This is for an environmental impact report, EIR, on development at 1661 Sunset Drive. We've received minutes from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force from March, and minutes received from the Planning Commission also in March. And that concludes our brief consent agenda. So now we'll move on to item 11A, consider adoption of an ordinance to continue to outdoor dining rules. Ms. O'Halloran, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and the public. I'm Laurel O'Halloran, planner with the City of Pacific Grove. I'm here this evening with great news. Our parklet program has been a success, and our city parklets are very popular. The city implemented a parklet program in the summer of 2020 to allow businesses to utilize parking spaces, sidewalks, and other outdoor dining spaces for dining in a safe environment. Ordinance 21-013 was approved in May of 2021 and clarified the scope and effect of the sidewalk dining and sunsets 1 year following enactment, which is June 4th of 2022. Adopting the draft ordinance in the attached agenda would extend the provisions of Ordinance 21-013 and allow the parklet program to continue for 1 more year without changes. This extension is a further response to the pandemic emergency and would allow time for staff to create and present a comprehensive parklet and outdoor dining program for City Council review in the spring of 2023. Thank you, and this concludes my staff report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, we do. Mr. Momar. We'll take our.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members, City Council, public. My name is Mo Amar, and I'm so happily retired out of the Chamber of Commerce. I just want to share with the council that Monterey County Weekly, our local publication, publishes once a year the best of Monterey County. And in their best of Monterey County, they stated that Pacific Grove undeniably has the best outdoor dining experience and destination. They highly, highly recommended it, and they said it's the best for one reason, and that's all the parklets. I've been doing the Good Old Days for 26 years, and after every Good Old Days, typically the restaurants would complain, and they get hurt by all the street food vendors that come out. As a result of the parklets, the restaurants were able to enjoy the benefit of having all the crowds downtown. And if you are down there Saturday, Sunday, you'll see the lines at all the parklets. When I think of the parklets as a hospitality instructor for 17 years at the local college, I think of all the students and all the waiters and staff and people that work at those restaurants. So the parklets are essential for the benefit of the labor that work at these places. Last but not the least, what's in it for the city of Pacific Grove? What's good for the restaurants is good for the city. It's the sales tax that they contribute. And if you look at your top 20 sales tax revenue producers, second to Hayward Lumber and the gas stations. It's our fine dining, great restaurants in Pacific Grove. So I just want to urge the council to approve the extension for 1 year. And last, I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council again. My name is Jenny McMurdo. I'm the President and CEO of the Pacific Grove Chamber. I just wanted to reiterate the letter that we had sent urging the council to adopt this resolution to extend this for another year. Both the Chamber, the Hospitality Improvement District, and the Business Improvement District, and I think you'll hear from the EDC as well, are all in support of this. I think this is a chance for Pacific Grove to stand out amongst our Monterey Peninsula communities. You are both able and willing to extend this program, and I hope that you do tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
We do have 2 online callers, Mr. Mayor. Ariel Zena.
Welcome.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. My name is Ariel Zena, and I am commenting today on behalf of the Economic Development Commission. Similar to the 2 comments you just received, the EDC strongly encourages the City Council to approve the recommendation made by city staff to extend the life of parklets and use of public space for outdoor dining. There are a number of reasons that we are making this recommendation. First, outdoor dining remains a critical option for restaurants to meet customer preferences in light of the public health emergency. We know that having that flexibility is really beneficial for both businesses and customers alike. And if we were to remove outdoor dining options, we should expect that patronage to decrease during what is a pretty unstable time. Also, continuing flexibility for the outdoor dining will also enable restaurants to better plan and be prepared for future COVID surges. I know we're enjoying a slight return to normal while COVID has become more manageable, but uncertainty still remains with potential for new variants to quickly change. And being able to have extending this outdoor dining program will provide a sense of stability during what is otherwise very uncertain times. Furthermore, if we were to sunset this program and then at a later date resurrect it, creating these safe and stable outdoor spaces takes time, and that would be an undue burden to have restaurants remove and then reinstate these structures. In addition to the consideration that we have for our current business communities, I think it's really critical that the council consider the impact this decision would have on future prospective restaurants that would come to our community. When we think about outdoor dining, given COVID, it is a key and really critical consideration for businesses to determine whether they are going to move to a new area. And as Jenny McMurdo had said, we really want to make sure that we're remaining competitive and inviting to that, to those businesses to come to our space, particularly given that absent this program, very few restaurants in Pacific Grove have outdoor dining options. So you have a critical lever to being able to facilitate this in our community. Also, similar to what the comments that were made previously about allowing Pacific Grove to be an outlier and to be a differentiator from us among the community, I think it's critical that we consider that the larger cities in our areas, which many of our visitors hail from, outdoor dining and making parklets a permanent structure is very consistent. When we look at cities like San Francisco, Mountain View, Palo Alto, those are just few examples of cities who are also working on permanent parking guidelines, parklet guidelines. And some of our neighbors are even. Oh,
thank you.
yes.
Thank you for your comments.
Debbie Beck.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Peak and council members. I promise I will not read my 5-paragraph letter that I sent to you last night. And I don't have the photos to present, but you do have them in front of you. I will speak to my love for outdoor dining, first of all, and I agree with the callers. We do And I encourage outdoor dining, but parking has become a real issue in downtown Pacific Grove for businesses for various reasons. And in the photos that I presented to you, you will also see red and disabled parking allowed to be covered up by the parklets. We have made parklets an exclusive group, and I thought we were an inclusive community. And allowing the ordinance for another year will need to include any business in Pacific Grove to allow a parklet regardless of location and not to be exclusive to restaurants only. What if a business on Forest Avenue, how is a city to in a photo below, you will see an open fire for the jazz performers to stay warm at night in front of one of the restaurants. And it's very close to our historical buildings that have not only have businesses, but they also have residents above. And this is a concern of mine. Nightlife on a Friday and Saturday night is lovely and inviting. However, let's remember all of our downtown businesses are closed by 5 or 6 p.m. Hence the reason the parklets are not bringing additional business to our retailers. From my observation, I see the majority of the parklets sitting empty until the weekend rolls around. So why another 1 year when the tables can be moved onto the sidewalk and a single walking line to be created just like we see on Alvarado Street? I believe we have all supported every restaurant during the pandemic, and since the emergency order has expired or close to it, I believe as a city, the emergency order was overused on many items. It's time to regroup and allow sidewalk dining with character and not temporary wooden structures. If you vote to approve the ordinance before you, I suggest a 6-month extension, as this is not a permanent, plan. And wait until the beginning of the winter months and probably not have a need for a parklet dining. We can use the parking for holiday shoppers. I will give credit to a few of the parklets as they stay true to the character of their building and match the colors. There are many other issues that with storm drains and runoff and those type of things. Again, I encourage you to consider parklet dining on the sidewalk if you want to call it sidewalk dining, but the structures and the parking spots for another year, you need to really rethink that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mike Durant.
Hi,
Welcome.
everybody. I hope everyone's doing good. I just hopped on, so I haven't really heard what's been going on, but I do want to voice massive support from at least my generation and a lot of younger ones for parklets. And I think we need to make it a permanent addition, not just a temporary, not a 1 year or a 6 month. We need to make this 100% permanent. For the first time ever, I was reading a magazine article or a news article where all the other towns around here are talking about Pacific Grove for being someone that's being innovative and being creative and doing things that are making things positive for the restaurants. And I would like to say that it absolutely helps the retail market downtown to bring those businesses in or to bring people into town. They're doing things before they're going out to eat. They're doing things to get into town or having reasons to stay into town. So to say that it's not helping retail businesses out is to look at it very, very minutely, I guess you could say. They're not looking at the big picture. I think that there is an absolute energy that happens when you have it. And I live 1 block off of downtown, so I hear the noise. I hear First Fridays. I hear people down at the Monarch. I have fun with it. It's enjoyable. It brings an energy to the town that we all need. And so I'd really like for us to think about not just making it a temporary, but making it permanent. When I go around town, I see plenty of parking. So the parking we're talking about is 20 spaces or 15 spaces, but I see 40 spaces behind the movie theater. We're not doing a good enough job of letting people know where they can park and where they can go. And those are the things that we can help people so that they can come into town, have a place, feel welcome, but talk about the energy of Pacific Grove, which has not happened before. So let's make it permanent. Let's not talk about temporary. Let's not talk about taking them down and putting them back up. Let's make it 100% permanent, and let's invite everybody into this town and to show what we can do. As I go around, I see beautiful structures out there. I remember Giannini was probably the last one that seemed like to put anything up, and now I pass by Giannini and it is awesome. They've done a fantastic job. It looks beautiful. All of them look pretty fantastic, actually, and they make it look like we're having fun in this town, which I think we are. So let's make it permanent. Let's make it 100%, 100% permanent from now on. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more hands are raised, Mr. Mayor.
Council discussion on the item? Councilmember Emilio.
Thank you. I'm in support of the recommendation. And some of the reasons, to mention a few, the restaurants on downtown has created a vibrant community, vibrant Pacific Grove community. It's just, they have heat lamps up. Every time I've been down there, including my wife with me, it's always been busy. And I think if we're looking toward a green environment, this creates a green environment rather than having a bunch of parking spaces in front. There's plenty, there was a caller that mentioned of parking. There's plenty of parking. I've never had difficulty parking. And I know some friends that have been down there and they've had no problems with parking. It's healthy to sit there, relax, have at the restaurants located around, and it also supports our businesses. I think that's very important, supporting our Pacific Grove businesses.
Councilmember Pedori.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also in support of this item. I frankly like the public-private partnership that is happening here. I also believe that this is a perfect example of how public spaces can be repurposed to bring the community together. And this is a prime example of that happening right now. I do have a question related to what are you planning to do in the future? How can we make things permanent? And my recommendation is that we start looking into how we can make this permanent right away, perhaps an outdoor dining plan or something of that sort, which involves the community and where we can gather more input. And I do believe that anything related to planning and gathering community input does take time. So I'm in favor of this being a year. Thank you.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. The initial program, as everyone remembers, was an ad hoc basis. The situation warranted that. It was an ad hoc attempt to help restaurants survive. And that I don't think anyone had a problem with that. We were all eager to support our local restaurants. But now we need to turn our attention to a more permanent and ongoing process, more program. And I believe we need to do two things. We need to have the Planning Commission weigh in on design standards. And we need to have the Traffic and Safety Commission weigh in on safety standards. So I'm hoping to make a motion that will include those two items, that we send out for referral to both the Planning Commission and to the Traffic Commission to get their input by November. It's also important that we have outreach for our stakeholders. That includes property owners in the district. Parking spaces are being taken up. And it's important also to let the current owners or the operators of the parklets understand that there's going to be a fee associated with the encroachment permit. And I think we need to direct staff to institute a fee for this coming year. And perhaps we can do that by amending the fee schedule. So those three things. Oh, I do have a question. Is there a sunset clause in this proposed ordinance? I did not see one.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
It is on section 14. Section 6 has permanent effect, but all other provisions of the ordinance sunset 1 year following its enactment. And section 6 is the criteria for removal of any structures that were made.
Thank you. I'm glad we could make that clear. One other kind of technical thing is the enacting clause of the ordinance isn't consistent with Article 15. That's a nit, but we should fix that. So the important thing here to do is to get the Planning Commission involved on design guidelines. We need to have a design guidance
ready before we look at this ordinance again next year. I don't want to see this come back and then it's a hurry up kind of thing. So those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. Yes, tonight I'm supportive of the recommendation for 1 year as recommended by staff. I think it's been largely a positive experience. I know that, I've enjoyed being down there and having dinner outside when the weather's nice, and it's a good experience. I think it does probably bring in people, although, you'd have to do a study on that, but I think it's good for the community. I think it's good for the other businesses and the restaurants. I always want to help the restaurants. So I do agree, though, that it's going to be, in my mind, it should probably be a two-part thing tonight where we approve the staff recommendation and add on another motion, add on potentially planning direction to make it clean and try to figure out what that looks like. I think Councilmember Coletti raised some good points about planning. So, I support the recommendation, but if there's some direction we can give to staff regarding the 1 year term, and I'd like to see it come back within the year with a real plan we know what we're going to do going forward, rather than just kind of like continuing where we're at now with the temporary setup. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Thank you so much. For me, when we talk about becoming a permanent program, before really we can do anything, we have to remember that the Monterey Regional Water Management District, we're currently using their urgency ordinance, which expires on April 18th, 2023. So I do agree that there needs to be design guidelines and that Planning Commission, of course, needs to see this. But before that, I think we need to understand the water situation after this year, because it's my understanding that this is the second and last extension of the water sort of forgiveness. So that would be important for the restaurants to understand if they're allowed to buy water entitlements that we have available, or if they want to give up seats inside for outside seats. And then really, if you open that up, then we're kind of opening up a code enforcement of counting seats and what seats are you using, et cetera. So I do appreciate and like the parklets. They did a service and they provided a lifeline during the pandemic, and it's great. I mean, I love to drive by and see them busy. I love to utilize them. But between the water and also the alcohol, ABC right now, I believe they're on like a special pandemic catering license. So that is something else that would need to be worked out, because there are some very stringent ABC laws when it comes to serving alcohol outside. So those are two. Of course, I support moving this forward for another year, but before staff even starts creating this, long-term permanent program, I think we need to understand those two very important issues, as well as, do we need an ERR? Is this CEQA? Is this a coastal commission? Do we need a coastal development permit? I recently read that the wharf in Monterey was contacted by the California Coastal Commission about their outdoor dining. So I want to be clear in what direction that we direct staff to go to. And then just lastly, I wanted to share the definition of parklets. I looked in various planning associations, websites, and the consistent message is parklets are public seating platforms that convert curbside parking spaces into vibrant community spaces. Also known as street seats or curbside seating, parklets are a product of a partnership between the city and local businesses. And so for me, during the good old days, I actually was taken back when I saw signs at the parklet that said no outdoor food, or, you know, don't bring any outside food or beverages into our parklet. And, you know, I want to remind the restaurant owners that the city has graciously expanded their business on city and public rights of way. And so, you know, if we talk about this permanent program, if we're only going to expand outdoor dining, then let's call that what it is. That is expanding a restaurant's footprint. If we are really going to go down this path of a parklet, then those are community spaces and need to be offered and available to everybody, not just the restaurant patrons. So that's something else that I think that we need to be clear on, and I'm hoping that the Planning Commission will be able to work on that. So thank you so much.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo just my support for the parklets and the outdoor dining. I think it's been a great program. I supported it from the beginning, and I still do. But I very much agree with what everyone has said here tonight. And my biggest beef with the agenda report is that it says, you know, create and present a comprehensive parklet and outdoor dining program for City Council to review in the spring of 2023. And I just think that is pushing it off. I don't want to review it in the spring of 2023. I want to have it adopted no later than the spring of 2023. So it's a different way to word it, which echoes what everyone's kind of saying. Let's back up the timeline. The things I've heard today of Traffic and Safety, Planning Commission, getting the input from the community, both businesses and patrons, the fee schedule understood, the water situation, the liquor license, the EIR, CEQA, all of that. And I would actually tackle the legal items first and foremost, to make sure that we understand legally what we can and cannot do before we engage with the community and all the Planning Commission and what have you. So when the time's ready, my proposal for a motion would include, sure, definitely adopting the recommended action for a year of extending the emergency ordinance so that restaurants can plan for that. So they know they have at least a year. But in a separate sentence, motion, I would suggest that we have something come back before the year is up. So it's already halfway through the year. So within 6 months of a draft, so that we can have it adopted by the spring of 23 before this year extension expires again. But, you know, this is a fantastic program. We have the ability to find a way to, I think, make it permanent and to do it well. And there's a lot of communities around us that have been talking about this, that we can leverage on some of their knowledge and research. And I encourage staff to designate a point person, which I think is Laurel, who's fantastic at doing these things, and being able to make this a permanent offering for our community, because it does bring such a great offering to the people that come visit and the people that live here. So thanks.
Well, obviously parklets is a very simple matter. I'm joking. You think that it's just this little structure downtown across some parking spaces, and yet it touches so many things. We heard about, encroachment and parking for disabled persons, fire concerns, regulations regarding the California alcoholic beverage control, water regulations, and their potential fees, selling water. So there are a lot of issues to handle. And I agree, this should come back. I'd like to see something happen and for us to guide this along the way. So turn to Mr. Harvey, if you want to give us some of your thoughts. And I think I've heard support. I also support a motion which would probably include coming back to council at some interim period to say, hey, this is where we are. These are the issues as, staff, we see them. And things in regards to Mayor Pro Tem McAdams brought up the water and ABC. And we may just have to have some options out there because we won't know probably. But Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we would welcome the opportunity. We've already started, as you might imagine, outreach and research on this. That's why we were asking for a year extension. We know that it's going to be an involved effort. I think the 6-month timeline to come back and tell you where we are at that point will work fine. That's plenty of real estate between now and then, so to speak, to, I think, accomplish a lot. Yeah, I can't give you definitives on a lot of these things that are brought up. They're all things that we're thinking about clearly. I mean, there's an environmental concern. The design guidelines are part of the discussion, of course, safety concerns, water. Coastal Commission, there would only be some locations that are potentially in that area because the coastal zone doesn't extend, as you know, up to the downtown. But obviously there are restaurants that are in the coastal zone. So we're very happy to come back in 6 months. I think we can get a lot accomplished, and we can tell you where we are, what the challenges are, what direction we need, if that's okay with you guys.
So I heard comments about going to the Planning Commission. Could you be ready in 6 months also to go before the Planning Commission, if not before 6 months, and then come to council in 6 months?
Yes, Mayor, I think we can do
would
that.
be great. Councilmember Emilio?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Harvey. Is 6 months, do you need like 7 or 8 months rather than 6 months? 6 months seems like a short time.
I'm very confident in Laurel's capabilities and her team. So I'm going to hold her feet to the fire, but I'm going to help as well, of course. And so I think that thank you for the consideration, but I believe we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Coletti?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a follow-up question as well. So we would be directing Planning Commission and Traffic Safety to embark on their exploration of this topic as soon as possible. Don't delay 6 months before they start, but hope that they actually come back with something in 6 months. That's what I was hoping. Is that something you think can happen? How soon can we direct planning and traffic safety to get involved?
Councilmember Coletti, through the mayor, I was speaking to the mayor's concept of 6 months. I think 6 months is reasonable. I think that it's going to require some research and some outreach and some effort. And I think at that time that we'll be prepared.
Okay, so we're talking 6 months to get them involved, 6 months to wait to get back from them. I think that pushes it back further than when we didn't have time to deliberate on it. So I would say no longer than 6 months. Hopefully we can get it to them sooner. And we'd like to see this, I think, at the beginning of next year. That's my hope. And what about, if I can ask another question, Mayor, what about the fee schedule? When would council be able to deliberate on that?
Councilmember Coletti, through the, I'm sorry, Councilmember Tomlinson, did you want to say something?
No, let's go ahead with could you answer the question?
Sure.
please?
So the fee schedule, the city council may amend at any time. It's up to you.
Yeah, Mr. Rado.
If I may, through the mayor, there is one provision of this ordinance, though, if you want to have the ability to charge fees that you will have to modify. Section 5 addresses modified permit processes and fees, and there are 4 sections, and each time it says that permits shall be granted without hearing or fee. And that phrase or fee is used 4 different times. So if you want to maintain the ability to impose a fee, you should be striking those 2 words or fee each time that it shows in section 5. What that would do, that would then leave to your future discretion through a modification of your master fee schedule, the ability to impose a fee for this.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, just to address that, I don't want to impose a fee before we actually adopt a permanent ordinance. So I'm okay with not having a fee for the next year. But I guess for the city manager, I'm thinking, and maybe Laurel can speak to her plan, but that there will be quite a bit of need to involve different entities between now and 6 months from now, which could include the planning commission. You had mentioned that you're already talking about design criteria and some safety stuff you've been looking at. So in the research mode and working with different stakeholders, that would, just correct me if I'm wrong, but that would take place between now and the next 6 months. And then that's when there'd be something sort of put together in order to present to the commission and the council. And on that note, coming back to council between now and the next 6 months with various pieces of this it might need to happen as well. There's so many pieces to it as I see it. So I don't know if you or Laura want to comment on the execution.
Sure, Councilmember Thomason through the mayor. From the discussion that I've heard, I'm thinking the consensus is you want to be able to have your input as to what goes to the planning commission is what I was hearing. If I'm not, or I mean, we can, no, okay. We can certainly, if you want to allow staff to go directly to the planning commission and then come back to you, we're happy with that direction. We can work with that. And if that's the case, we can get to the planning commission within 6 months and come back to you probably right around that 6 month timeframe, if not beforehand.
That would be my preference, as they hold, some expertise, I think, in these areas. Traffic and safety is a huge one for me. There's a few parklets that are very unsafe, in my opinion, the way that we need to put maybe some mirrors or something up for the pedestrians crossing. So I think they'd bring a lot of value to have them discuss it at the board and commission level before it comes to council. So that was my idea. I don't know, Ms. O'Halloran, do you have anything to add on how you wanted to run it?
Yeah, I've been doing research with other cities similar to our city, and getting ideas of how to go about trying to create a permanent program. I'm happy that you guys are seeming to be on board with this, and we'll have to start work tomorrow if this is approved and then do our best to come back to you in 6 months. We'll go to planning commission first, maybe traffic commission, do some community outreach. I've been talking with water, ABC, and talking with our city attorney on CEQA. So we are working on things. We could just have a little time and get this ordinance extended. I'm confident that we would be, when I said spring of 2023, I meant having done the work and be ready to present a final program. But we're happy to come back in 6 months. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. That sounds great. And I'll just make a final plug for along the way, anytime you would need to use a board or a commission or council for that matter, I would do so and put it on our agendas, even, understanding that we're ultimately getting to the finish line with a comprehensive program, but there's going to be decision-making points along the way to get to that point.
Yes, thank you.
Tim McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to, going to the various boards and commissions, and I agree with Councilmember Tomlinson, let's engage as often as we need to. And also for me, that is another public meeting, right? That's another opportunity for the public to weigh in should they want to. I do have two suggested edits for the ordinance when we get to a motion. And something maybe to think about in 6 months, you know, when staff comes back with their update on the comprehensive plan, is at the same time, I think that we should also be looking at how to sunset the program in case all of these moving parts don't work out. So for me, I wouldn't want the restaurants and business owners to be expecting us to have a permanent program as much as we want to. In the event something happens, like, it just seems like there would be a lot of disappointment if we are not able to have a permanent program. So I think that we also need to be mindful in having an out. And then also with steps of, you know, developing the program, we should also talk about and think about beginning to implement fees and rent for the parklets. You know, in the city, in the past, the city likes to have programs that pay for themselves as far as the administration and the cost of the program, such as the short-term rental program. So I think we need to be thinking about that. And, you know, that's another sort of engagement and data point to get from the restaurants or any business. I don't know if we want to go down that where any business can have a parklet, but, you know, figure out how to phase in the rent gradually. So it's not such a, you know, such a large expense that all of a sudden comes up. I think Carmel's was 1,800 a parking spot. I don't recall exactly, but it would be it would be good for staff to gauge what other cities are charging. So thank you.
Councilmember Peduri.
Yeah, I think my question was answered, but I'm gonna ask it again anyway. Since we're directly asking staff to look into certain commissions or boards, I was wondering if we need to pull in the architectural review board too. Is this all part of the plan? Should we just make the recommendation generic and just advise staff to come up with a plan rather than stating we need to go to the planning commission, we need to go to this? It'll be easier for staff to work with a 6-month timeline if we're giving them a general direction rather than a specific direction in this case, because there are a lot of input, I would believe. Thank you.
Councilmember Emilio.
I feel the staff will be able to come up with an update, and I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
I would like to make the recommendation to introduce and hold the first reading of the ordinance to continue for 1 year. Ordinance 21-013, adopting temporary outdoor dining rules, and direct the publication of the ordinance be satisfied by publication of a summary approved by the city attorney. I would also add with that ordinance that the city the city staff comes back to us with an update within 6 months.
I'll second that.
Discussion on the motion, Councilmember Coletti.
Yeah, I think that's a good step forward. I think what I'm hoping, they need to come back, but I'd like to put kind of some bullets on what we're expecting to receive. One of the things that I'd like to receive is I'd like to receive a Gantt chart or some kind of chart that shows what the milestones are going to be to get to this comprehensive plan we're hoping to arrive at next year. That, you know, to evaluate the critical paths are PERT chart, right? The Navy's famous for them. So at any rate, it doesn't have to be that sophisticated, but I would like to see it. So I'm going to ask you, the maker of the motion, for a friendly amendment to kind of list what our expectations are. And one of the expectations is certainly to chart out what the milestones are going to be, but also to explore how we're going to engage the planning commission, traffic safety, and that'll do for now.
Okay.
Have discussion on the motion, please, Mayor.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Thank you. And this, I guess it could be a friendly amendment under the draft ordinance facts, page 1, number 2. I would like to remove the last sentence and replace with MPWMD extended urgency number 190 on 4/18/2022 to sunset on 4/18/2023. Just to be more clear, it's for me that needs to be updated because they've already had the discussion and I don't foresee additional discussions happening. And
Could you explain exactly where that is again?
sure, so the draft ordinance under the facts.
Okay.
It's the first page of the facts. And it says. Hold on one second.
Number 2.
Yes. So the very last sentence, discussion as to whether those temporary rules shall be extended remain under discussion. I'd like to remove that.
That's the last sentence.
Uh-huh.
And the second paragraph, and replace that.
With MPWMD extended urgency ordinance number 190 on 4/18/2022 to sunset on 4/18/2023. So just to reference that, it's no longer a discussion. And then halfway down the page on number 5, there's a grammatical error. So if you read, the city council determines this ordinance promotes efforts, I think that is not supposed to be there. So I just would like to strike that.
Okay.
And that's it. Those are my 2 friendly amendments.
All right. I'll ask the makers of the motion in 6 months. 6 months from when?
6 months from June 1st. That's only a couple. I mean, that's what I'm suggesting. I'm throwing out June, starting June, within
Okay.
6 months of June 1st.
Okay. Well, let's see, we probably won't have a council meeting on that date. Let me check.
Well,
That would be December 7th. Would be the council meeting following 6 months from June 1st. So you want staff to return on December 7th.
I did not look at the dates. I could look it up, but December 7th is fine with me. If that's what you're asking me.
Well, I'm
Super,
asking
yeah.
because I want to be specific on understanding when you'd like this to be, come back to council, and from what you've just said, it'll be December 7th.
December 7th.
Can I suggest we say no later than December 7th as the language? And that way it could come sooner. And with, I think December 7th might be the day that we're swearing in new people. So it may not be the best day, and staff could then have the liberty to come in November if they're ready. Or a no later than December, the second date in December, the 21st. Something with a no later than is the way I would word it, rather than lock someone into a date.
Okay, so we heard the proposal from Councilmember Tomlinson to make it December
21st.
21st.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It's a day after my birthday, so I think that works okay.
That's 7 months from now. That's over 7 months from now.
That's fine with me on the motion to
Okay.
December 21st.
Let me check with our city manager. We do have a council meeting scheduled for December 21st, which is the third Wednesday prior to the holidays.
But Mayor, sorry to interrupt you. You know, if we are ready beforehand, we certainly could come before that,
Yeah.
but no later than. So that's fine.
Okay.
I guess as the seconder of the motion, I am happy to also accept the friendly amendments from Mayor Pro Tem McAdams, as well as this no later than date. I do not want to add in the specifics of charts or certain ways to kind of bake the cake. I just want it to be up, the program to be run by Ms. O'Halloran, and then know that I can go to her along the way if I need specific updates. So that would be.
I think that's reasonable. Mr. Harvey's heard all our concerns, and so our expectations for this to come back on or no later than December 21st are high, because there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, right? And we've only just touched on them today. So I think we're ready for, and Ms. Kendall, would you like to read the motion back to us, please?
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Emilio, seconded by Councilmember Tomlinson. Introduce and hold first reading of an ordinance to continue for 1 year. Ordinance 21-013, adopting temporary outdoor dining rules. Direct the publication of the ordinance to be satisfied by publication of a summary approved by the city attorney, and that city staff return with an update no later than 6 months.
December 21st.
No later than December 21st. Okay. Thank you. And that also included edits by Mayor Pro Tem McAdams, which I am requesting from her, and I do not have those.
Yeah, and so Mayor Pro Tem McAdams will provide, it's a sentence replacement and delete and is in the fact. Okay, all right. Ready for a vote? Ms. Kendall?
Thank you. Councilmember Emilio,
Yes.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Yes.
Councilmembers Coletti,
Aye.
Baduri, Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We're now on to item 13A, fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement plan and SB1 project list. Ms. Halloran and Mr. Go, welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. Just bear with us a second here while we get this going. All right, it's awesome to see you guys in person today. This item before you is the fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement plan. There we go. recommendation associated with this item is to receive and approve the CIP for inclusion in the operating budget, to approve a resolution adopting the Senate Bill 1 project list, and to provide direction on the use of ARPA funds for CIP projects. The proposed CIP is comprised of 15 projects, 4 of which are multi-funded projects. So they're comprised of general fund and non-general funding sources. We have 1 general fund project and 10 non-general fund projects from various non-general funding sources. Of the 4 multi-funded projects, we have 2 road projects. These aim to address the city's aging road infrastructure network. We have our street rehabilitation project and our annual crack and slurry seal. These are very important projects because we're putting emphasis back into our deteriorating roadways. They're also important because together they have a combined general fund allocation of $500,000. This is a requirement to meet maintenance of effort in order to be eligible for continued Senate Bill 1 and Measure X funding. We have our Point Pinos Coastal Trail project. Construction is substantially complete, but as an element of our grant agreement and our existing construction contract, we are required to do 2 years of plant monitoring. So this will allow for that first year of plant monitoring. And then we have our Del Monte Boulevard Storm Drain project. This is funded in the current year CIP, but has been deferred following a bid process. We did not have sufficient funding to allow for construction. So the project has been incorporated in the proposed CIP with an additional allocation request. This is an essential project that will allow us to fix a failed portion of storm drain that has caused sinkholes in the roadway. It's also preventing us from rehabilitating the roadway, which is currently in a failed status with a PCI of 12. We can't do that until we fix the underground infrastructure. Our 1 general fund project, you're all very familiar with. It's our Public Works Fire Repair Project. It's a multi-year carry forward project. It's reimbursable by the city's insurer, and it is reflected in Fund 63, our capital improvement fund, because that is where the reimbursements will be received. So quickly, before I jump into the non-general fund side of things, I want to note the general fund fiscal impact. As I stated, there are 5 projects that are either partially or fully funded from the general fund for a total of $1.5 million. Only 2 of those projects are newly proposed, and those are the 2 street projects that I mentioned. And those have a $500,000 general fund allocation. And again, this is a requirement for us to meet maintenance of effort in order to be eligible for over $1 million of Senate Bill 1 and Measure X funding combined. We have 2 multi-year projects that are underway that are currently, they're both reimbursable. Our Public Works Fire Repair Project, reimbursable by the city's insurer, and the Point Pinos Trail Project. Plant monitoring that I mentioned, that's reimbursable by grants. Then we have 1 carry forward project with a $205,000 general fund allocation. That's our Del Monte Storm Drain project I mentioned. That includes carrying forward the remaining balance from the current fiscal year, which is about $130,000, and allocating an additional $75,000 of general fund monies to allow for construction. We've got 10 non-general fund projects, 8 directly address failing or damaged city infrastructure. We've got 1 project that develops a long-term ADA compliance and transition plan, and that plan is currently underway. This is just requesting some additional funding to allow for completion. And then we've got 1 longer term project that looks at improving multimodal safety. As a part of tonight's request, we're also asking for adoption of a Senate Bill 1 project list. This is a requirement in order for us to receive our annual allocation. We're estimated to receive over $350,000 this year, and that full funding allocation will be harnessed towards our street rehabilitation project. As is the case every year, we have several projects that have been deferred due to lack of available funding. All of the projects that were submitted through our call for projects are included in attachment 5, what we're referencing as the deferred project list. So in addition to the CIP proposal that we're bringing forth, which incorporates those 15 projects, there is, council can fund additional projects using ARPA funds. There is $843,000 available to fund additional projects from that deferred project list. As you're all well aware, there's currently a community survey to gather the community's priorities on utilizing that ARPA funding. And the results to date show the top three priorities listed on the screen: public streets, intersections, and sidewalks ranking at number 1, recycled water plant and sewer infrastructure 2, and local parks and rec programs 3. So as it relates to options for ARPA funded projects, you can provide us with direction on specific projects for inclusion into the CIP tonight. You can direct staff to return at a future meeting to discuss and recommend projects for funding, or you can provide us with alternate direction. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Do we have any public comment? Welcome.
My name is Andy Kubica, and I'm a resident here, and I want to thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mayor, staff, and good evening, staff, Mayor, and City Council, and residents who are dialing in. I've looked at the deferred list of proposed projects, and I was fixating mostly on the ones that would cause a greater impact, that would, if they were not done, there would be a increased cost. And the ones I picked on were Chautauqua Hall, which is item 4 on your list. It says there's water damage, and water damage just keeps increasing and never gets any cheaper. Chautauqua Hall, item number 5, that's roof repairs. That should be very high on the city list. Roof repairs, if they're not done, cause damage to the interior of the building and an increased cost in repair. Chautauqua Hall, the presentation plan. There was $15,000 allocated for painting on the east side of Chautauqua Hall in fiscal year 18-19. This work was not performed. The historical building continues to deteriorate and leak. There is a request for $25K for a plan for Chautauqua Hall registration. I please request that you build that plan and then get moving in fixing Chautauqua Hall. It's not getting any better with the paint peeling on the sides of the building. And then the City Hall, the roofs leak for $80,000. That's number 18 on the list. And then the purple pipe, item 21 on the deferred list for watering plants in city parks. It's my understanding that the city is paying Cal-Am almost $400,000 a year for water. The city water plant is also losing $200K a year because there supposedly was no market to sell the additional water for the last 3 years. Installing purple pipe and or connecting to the current irrigation system, I'm sure that Public Works could come up with a creative way to use the current system and bless it as a purple pipe. And then we'd be saving $200,000 a year. And I believe the cost for that was $120,000 for the first year, and then $290,000 for the second year. And that's in the charts that was an option, attachment 5. Let's see, I got 43 seconds. And then since I'm chairman of the Traffic Commission, I got to put a plug in for them, and we asked for wiglag lights in front of Robert Down School. The current lights in the street, sometimes they cannot be seen because they're tree shadows and also different times of the year. And I thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you.
It's nice to be
Welcome.
back.
Welcome.
I think we've covered about the same thing, but I am concerned about Chautauqua Hall. It is in bad shape. Almost 10 years ago, Georgia Booth rented it for a wedding reception, and the sewer was running through the kitchen during the reception. So lots of things need addressed. I hope that you choose wisely on some of these things. I know that water leaks are impaired. Anyway, we need to do it at City Hall. Get that taken care of. When I was here during a rainstorm, water was just dumping all around the building, the base of buildings, and we know that we wouldn't be happy with that doing it to our house. So we need to look at rain gutters and fixing the roof here. I think we need to consider not addressing trees at this point. One of the deferred things was to put a cypress tree at each end of Lighthouse Avenue. And if you look at the cypress trees that are there now, are in very poor condition. And I think we do have $35,000 in the budget or the proposed plan for this year for trees. And we need a plan to know where to put those. So many trees have been planted and not taken care of. And I think that's very important. I believe probably that's it. I just really think that all these water needs for taking care of plants and the water destructions need to be addressed right away. And do like you do with a multiple credit cards, take the one, pay it off, no more patching. Just fix one project at a time, make it right, and then go on to the next. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone on Zoom wishing to provide public comment?
Yes, Mayor. Jeannie Anton.
Welcome.
Hi, Jeannie Anton, and I'm from a board member of the Heritage Society, and I'm also now on the Historic Resources Committee. And I want to just echo what's just been said to you. I love the previous speaker just saying, we've got to stop patching. It's time to really put some money into Chautauqua Hall. I see that it's number 15 on the Public Works' priority ranking. And in the words that are on there, it is for a preservation plan to provide guidance and detail needed for restoration and code required upgrades. The plan will give a sequential scheme for improvements, which will help with planning and allocation of future funding. And I would add, including grants. Without a plan in place, it's very difficult to apply for grants. This is how they funded, or how they started the work out at Point Pinos Lighthouse. They had a plan in place, and many people that I know that have worked out there, many of the volunteers were very happy to have the plan in place first, because it really gave them direction. They knew what to do. They knew what order to do things in. And I think that we need to put the money into Chautauqua Hall, but I think we have to start with the plan. So please support. This is item number 15 on Public Works priority ranking. So please support all that can go into Chautauqua Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No other hands are raised, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll bring it back to council. I'm going to move to divide the question. Ms. Halby has nicely numbered the motions. Actually, the first one is receive and approve. So I'll move to divide the question. Do I hear a second? Okay, second by Councilmember Coletti. May we have a vote, please?
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Councilmember Coletti,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams,
Aye.
Councilmembers Emilio,
Aye.
Baduri, Smith,
Aye.
and Tomlinson.
Aye.
Carries 7-0 to divide the question.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Hallaby, and all the work that goes into your reports. They're just fantastic. And the way you put them together with the pictures and the reading, and they're separated and so easy to digest the offering and what you're suggesting. I fully support the CIP plan and including it in the operating budget. So item 1 as recommended, and item 2 as well, since of course it's necessary. For item 3, my suggestion tonight is that we lump the ARPA funds conversation, which is coming at our next meeting, and have this menu of the 51 options, that you present as part of our discussion, which is aimed to be, what are we going to do with the ARPA funds? And one of the ways I've been thinking about dividing or, allocating that money is kind of buckets in potentially an example of, some amount for the recreation board to kind of figure out and decide how they're going to rank and file what they want to do, and ultimately have council approve it. But a set amount of money for recreation, a set amount for streets, a set amount for some of these CIP projects, including historical sites like Chautauqua Hall. I would love to allocate money towards that. So that's going to be a robust conversation. I think we've got the community input that we've been given from as you presented from the survey. And rather than allocate tonight a small portion of the ARPA money for certain CIP projects, I would like to do that holistically altogether. And I think I'd ask the city manager, but I think it's on the 18th. Is that correct? That's next week, the first conversation. So just that would be my recommendation, is to approve the first two and then move the third item to be a part of next week's conversation. Thanks.
Mr. Harvey.
I'm very sorry. So just, we're going to be bringing the ARPA survey results to you at the next council meeting, if that's what you intended. We're just bringing that as here are the survey results. And then on the meeting of June 1st, that's when you actually decide the budget. I don't have an additional ARPA related discussion on those meetings. Am I misunderstanding?
When is the time when we're going to be just giving direction on how to program the ARPA money?
So it starts tonight. Basically, because that's one of the recommendations within this agenda report. You could do that tonight. At the next meeting, we're simply bringing back to you the results of the ARPA survey. I don't know that it will deviate substantially. It could, from what you saw tonight in Ms. Hallaby's presentation as far as the priorities. And then based upon what you decide tonight, and if you have anything additional on the 18th, we're putting that into the budget that comes to you on the 1st. And you, of course, can change what comes to you in the budget on the 1st, but we're going to have something put in for programming based upon what we've heard tonight.
Right, got it. And so again, my recommendation is to do the ARPA money programming all at once, not split it up between tonight and next week. If we're going to do it tonight, I'll certainly weigh in, but it seems split up to me to do it that way. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Councilmember Tomlinson. I have been watching the survey results. There's been 699 participants, and I understand the top three. And if you add the the high, the important, very important, they're really, the top three are like a matter of just a difference of 3 to 5 votes. So for me, they're all in line, and it just seems kind of backwards to be reviewing the survey, talking about it the next council meeting, but tonight we're gonna, I guess, give direction for the ARPA money. So if that is what I'm hearing, what we're doing, my top 3 are the wigwag lights at Robert Down School. It's so important. It's so needed. And thank you to the parents who wave flags and tag team and walk the kids back and forth, because that intersection on Pine is extremely dangerous in the morning. If you are heading towards Monterey, there's this perfect, when the sun is rising, this blinding spot. I'm surprised we haven't had accident, and feel very lucky and know that it's because of the diligence of the parents that are dedicated there every morning, making sure that the kids get walked into school safely. So that's number 14. Number 31 is Safe Sidewalks to School. That is a 2-year plan. There's 150,000 there. I'm not sure if the wigwags are different from that, but I really appreciate the Safe Routes to School work that the city has done. And I do think that it's important that we continue down that path. We have heard a lot regarding Chautauqua Hall as far as public comment and emails. So thank you to the residents who not only filled out the survey, but have also emailed us. So I think the bathroom repairs at Chautauqua Hall are something that the city, that we should really think about doing in addition to the Chautauqua Hall plan. I've attended a handful of events at Chautauqua Hall, and the bathrooms have just really needed something for a long time. And especially as more events are going to start taking place, I think the last thing that we want at like the Pinewood Derby event or someone's wedding is the bathrooms not working. I also really appreciated the community bike parking, which is number 44. And number 46, the bike lane on Ocean View. Those two together would be a total of 90,000. I do see the need for more bike parking, as well as the bike lane on Ocean. If you are driving Ocean View Boulevard, and actually we have had a few bicycle accidents where car doors have opened and hit bicyclists passing by. So I don't want to see any more of that happen. Again, I do agree with what Councilmember Tomlinson is saying, and I know that the rec department worked so hard for an inventory, and we did get submissions from our various boards and commissions, which I really appreciate that. So I do sort of see that the simpler way would be to provide, allocations or set aside the 843,000 for us to talk about it and figure that out, at a future meeting. I don't think that we can hash that out right now. And I think that makes, the most sense to just sort of just put it aside for now, get the CIP going, and talk about it when we talk about the survey. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. So yes, great report. I really like it. I think it's very well prioritized. Thank you so much. So my main points, I'll keep it short, is I'll make it three points because I really like 3 points. Maintenance of effort and grants. We're going to have to get everything on this list that's not deferred, I think is very important and critical to the city's function and making it the best city we can possibly make it. So I'm all in favor of the CIP project. And my only additional thing would be make sure we get our MOE and our grant and match and all the different various sources of money that we can take advantage of, get all the non-deferred projects. And as to the deferred project list, my priorities would be city assets and streets. I know that streets is already included in the main program, but I would encourage that we go beyond that because we've been working on it since I started on the council and talking about the numbers and the county and the index. So trying to get better with that. And so assets and streets, and then safe routes to schools, which kind of dovetails in with city streets and assets. But those are my priorities that I saw that really are important in my mind. Thank you.
Councilmember Emilio.
I have a question on the, for Mr. Harvey, the ARPA funds of 1.8 million. Is that just allocated for public works or is it in general the whole city?
Councilmember Emilio, through the mayor, don't get the Public Works Department excited and telling them that money is all theirs, please. No, there are federal guidelines that determine how that money may be spent. In general, if you were going to just overall, it's to backfill revenue losses that local governments experienced due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it for a number of purposes, however, including maintenance, repair programs. They've expanded the initial guidance to include a lot of different areas. So our most well-versed person on staff in this area is Ms. Hannah, if you have a very nitty-gritty question. But essentially, what we've heard from council as far as recommendations for ARPA funds and what you see in the ARPA survey are all allowed uses potentially. Thank you. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, because, the city will receive approximately $1.8 million of ARPA funds. My thought process is I agree with some of the other comments that we hold off on deciding on the ARPA funds right now till we see a priority what the city needs. And that's my comment on it. And I do believe we go back to our Pacific Grove goals of streets, sidewalks, improvements. That's important to keep in mind for Pacific Grove.
Councilmember Peduri.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is a very comprehensive report, so I really appreciate it. I had a few questions, and I'm actually open to addressing the CIP list now or later. It's either one is fine with me. So it looks like the majority wants to do it later. But my question was first around the ARPA funds. The report listed that there's about $840,000 that is for CIP. So the ARPA funds are 1.7 million. Where did the 840 number come from?
Councilmember Peduri, through the mayor, were allocated 2 tranches of ARPA funding. The first tranche arrived last year in the July timeframe, 1.8 million. The second tranche of 1.8 million is expected to arrive in July of this year. That's being booked as revenue. The last council meeting, we had a budget forecast wherein we presented to the city council some proposed expenditures, additional expenditures that needed a source. And they included a proposed payment of the additional PERS unfunded liability. It was a proposed potential cost of living adjustment. It was some proposed salary increases for a group that hadn't received those in a number of years. And in all total, those additional pressures amounted to approximately $1 million. Now, the ARPA revenue is booked as revenue. It goes into the general fund. So there's a number of revenue sources that go into the general fund, obviously, but to keep things clean, if you will, and simple for the sake of this discussion, that potentially apportioned a large amount of that 1.8 million scheduled to come to the city, leaving approximately $800,000 unprogrammed, which we've brought to you as this $843,000 amount.
Okay, understood. I appreciate the explanation. So yeah, if that's the case, then I would like to look at more than just the CIP for that 800K plus. And so I would agree with the other council members here that we need to tackle it together. The other, I had a comment and perhaps a recommendation around the deferred project list. One of the things that I did, one of the things that struck me was I didn't realize how long were those items actually in the deferred project list. So if it helps in the future, I suggest adding a column in there to say this item has been there since 2010 or maybe 1950. So that we know that we need to tackle it as soon as possible. The other question I had was there was a comment there about a restroom replacement at Crespi Pond, and I know we're already in negotiations or at least starting negotiations with Corsco. And my suggestion is to find out the appetite from Corsco on what they can do to help with that particular item during these discussions, so that it will help the council decide how we want to move forward on that item. Then the other question I had was the fire repair had an insurance attached to it, and we're supposed to be reimbursed except for the minimal amount that's there. When is that amount expected to come in, and how much is that amount?
So we request reimbursements monthly
Okay.
based on expenses incurred.
So it's part of the budget. It's not like a windfall X amount of dollars that we'll receive. It's ongoing. Okay, got it. Thank you. there were, and these will probably factor in as we make the ARPA funds adjustment next week too, but do we, there was a topic there about electrical light panel upgrades. I didn't write down the numbers, but my question is, what is the city stance towards like converting everything to solar lights? I've seen a few solar lights pop up here and there, but in general, as we look towards replacing electrical lights, et cetera, in various parts in the town, is there a certain plan of action to say we want to do the right thing, kind of switch towards solar?
Councilmember Paduri, through the mayor, just point of clarification, are you speaking to streetlights?
Yes.
Okay, so just to make this a little more complicated, the city has two different categories of streetlights, those that the city owns and those that are owned by Pacific Gas and Electric. We're able to upgrade and maintain those that we own. Those that we do not own go through PG&E, and as far as I'm aware, they don't yet have a solar light program for their streetlights, of which the majority of town is covered by. And Mr. Go, would you like to add anything to that?
Thank you, City Manager Harvey. Councilmember Paduri, through the mayor, the lights downtown are the city owned and operated, but the panels that we're suggesting we upgrade are more than just the city-owned streetlights. It's any power supply that we have downtown for like the good old days when they needed power this weekend. They would have been using power through our systems, any fair that we have, the car shows. So it's streetlights, yes. It's the string lights on the trees, though, also. They're all powered through our systems downtown. Those electrical panels are aging. We would love to switch everything to solar. And the streetlights would be a great thing to start looking at in the future, but we still need to make sure that we have an ample supply that's reliable through our power systems downtown. And these electrical panels are older, and we've been requesting funding for some years for replacement.
Okay, I think we need to take that offline. We can work towards probably a plan of action there. Let me see what else was left. Yeah, the question around, I saw a lot of items related to stormwater, and my question there was, there was also one indication that a stormwater infrastructure master plan needs to be developed. It appears to me that stormwater, whether we like it or not, is an ongoing annual item that is going to have a lot of expenditure related to it. So my view is that in addition to other items that we're considering, probably that makes the most sense. To me, like having a plan of action towards stormwater treatment or whatever is related there makes sense. And then the other comments I had was the Chautauqua Hall, certainly anything related to safety is paramount. So if it's Chautauqua Hall, if it's Robert Hyde down Junior with respect to the walkway lights, I think we need to make that a very important item on top of our priority list. And finally, in light of what is coming here with the agenda, the next agenda that's coming in, I would be supportive of the walkway of remembrance too. Thank you.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, we're here, it's 6:30, and we called a special meeting, and it feels like we're kind of going to defer some of this to a later meeting. So I think we should take an opportunity to drill into this as much as possible, because the next meetings coming up are going to be very busy. And then when we get into budget season, it's going to be so even more so. So I'm going to drill into on the deferred project list. I'd like to have Mr. Go or Ms. Hallaby talk about what is involved with the Purple Pipe project. And you mentioned, I'm just going to read from it. So this is for Planning Commission, was a Planning Commission submission. It was also on my list too, and we've heard about it from time to time. It says this would be a multi-year project. Year 1 and 2 of funding would allow for feasibility report, design, Coastal Commission and State Water Resources Control Board approvals / permitting. So that's looks like it's pegged at $120,000. Excuse me. Can you walk us through what that actually means? Would that report and design, would that be done in-house, the feasibility study, for instance?
Councilmember Coletti, through the mayor, I'd be more than happy to answer that question. I've been through this now twice, once when we put the water onto the golf course in the cemetery, and then when we added the lighthouse, Point Pinos lighthouse grounds to the irrigated reclaimed water system. Just to add the lighthouse to the system took me about a year. And let's put it in perspective, the 16th tee is approximately 30, maybe 40 feet from the landscape at the Point Pinos Lighthouse. I had to start with the feasibility study and make sure that it was going to be reasonable to do, both from a construction standpoint and from adding it onto the system online with the local water project. Then I had to start with CalAm and the State Water Resources Control Board, primarily the Regional Water Control Board. We had to do all of our mapping. We had to pinpoint out all of our irrigation systems. So they want to know exactly where every single sprinkler head's going to be, where every single pipe is going to be, where every backflow is going to be. And the reason we have to do that is because CalAm and Regional Water Control Board want to make sure that there's not any potential for cross-contamination into the potable water system. That's their main concern, and it should be our concern too. You get reclaimed water into a potable water system, that's a huge no-no in the eyes of many organizations and regulators. That's a steady, and when I say feasibility study, that's kind of this, what I'm alluding to with that study. That takes time, that takes engineers and people that can draw you those plan sets to come on board. I don't have the irrigation system at Perkins Park, at Lovers Point Park, at Caledonia Park, which would be our 3 parks that we could easily expand to because it's right there towards the edge of the golf course mapped. So we would have to retain the services of somebody to map those. Once we had those mapped, all those parks are within the coastal zone. So then I would probably need some type of coastal development permit to ensure that the work that we're going to be doing, the upgrades, are going to be permitted, allowed. I don't see why they wouldn't, but we would then have to go through that permitting process. And then we would have ultimately the implementation aspect of it, which we have out in potentially late year 2 to year 3.
Right.
So it would be a multi-year project, and it's doable. It's going to take time, and it's going to take funding.
Okay, so you've got here $120,000 as an estimate for that feasibility report and design work. That seems pretty reasonable, actually. But a lot of that would be outside contractors. And like you said, you have to go up to State Water Board to get your permit amended to actually deliver water to those source or to those sites. I understand that. I'm in favor of this. I think we do need to go forward. As people have mentioned, Mr. Kubica, Ms. Beck included, we're paying quite a bit of money for potable water to irrigate our coastal parks. And, you know, it never made sense to irrigate the golf course or the cemetery with potable waters, you know, so to our coastal parks. So I think, and of course, we're spending money, you know, we're writing checks to CalAm every month to do that. So I think it is a potential, and we've also, by the way, we've heard how we're underperforming with the local water project. So certainly having an additional site that we can irrigate with that water, that we will be saving money by not paying CalAm, I think that's worth it. So I will really strongly support that we take that off the deferred project list and put it in for this year's allocation. And one final question, can you give me kind of the same rundown you gave Mr. Goen? Thank you. On number 15, and that's the Chautauqua Hall. I know that's the preservation plan. I know that's only $25,000, well, only, but maybe you can kind of give us an update on what you see involved in that.
Of course, Councilmember Coletti through the mayor. So I was involved, gosh, it must have been 2011 or 12 with the Point Pinos Lighthouse Plan. And that plan ran through a process where they identified almost every single aspect of the building that would need to be looked at and improved, all the way from the structure to the paint, to the roof, to the electrical systems. All of that would be looked at and then developed into a plan moving forward. The Lighthouse Plan, I'm using that example because that's the one I'm familiar with, didn't specifically say, year one, do this, year two, do this, year three, do this task, but it laid out a path moving forward. So then we would have a guiding document that we could use to seek potentially historic building grants, but also a document that we could use to prepare requests for proposals to solicit the work that we would be needing. Right now, if we need to do work there, we're seeking quotes and receiving those quotes and saying, okay, let's go do this. And we're not sure if it's out of sequence. Like, we know the bathrooms need to get done at Chautauqua Hall. We've heard that today. This preservation plan might say, but let's look at the structure first and then do the bathrooms afterwards. That's the guiding document that this is going to give us. 2 years ago, we spoke with some historic preservation firms that could write this type of document. And that's where we received this quote that we're basing this request off of, around $25,000. We think we could still probably achieve it for that dollar value.
Thank you very much. I'd like to see that taken off the deferred project list as well and bring that forward for funding in this current cycle as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Halby, Mr. Go, for the report and the list. I know a lot of work went into it. Let me just back to the 3 items. Sorry, lost my place. So the many apologies. So the receive and approve the fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement plan to include in the operating budget. So what you're asking is the projects that you have listed in the operating plan to put in the budget. We're not actually approving that part of the budget. We don't normally approve the budget in parts, but you're asking for council to say, hey, yeah, it's okay, put it in the budget. You know, we like that. And okay, and I'm not hearing any questions about that at all. So I'm in support. I do have a couple of questions though on that. One is I noticed that on the sewer fund, the non-general fund projects, the sewer fund, there's nothing in there on Ocean View Boulevard, and the projects for this fiscal year were obviously deferred in front of the harbor seals on Ocean View Boulevard. And is the expectation that that work will be invoiced by June 30th? I'm just asking about the timing and the accounting. We are on the accrual system here, and it's not part of next year's capital project.
So Mayor Peak, we typically will carry forward any projects through a budget adjustment once the fiscal year starts, if there are any that are budgeted in the current fiscal year where we anticipate receiving invoices. And so that typically comes forward after the budget is adopted through a formal budget amendment.
So when the budget comes to us and those monies that were allocated for that street work will be earmarked, set aside, and later amended in the fiscal year 22-23 budget. to
That's
pay for
correct.
that
They'll
work.
formally get
Right.
carried forward.
Okay, it'll be taken care of. All right, great. And in regards to, and thank you very much for the questions or the answers in regards to the the sewer work. So as you know, we have almost an embarrassment of riches. That's what I would call it. 13 million in the sewer fund. And we have some projects still to do. And I only see one project on this list. This is the replace or rehabilitate manholes. This is on Asilomar. It's for 682,000. And so, you know, we have, let me see. 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 projects. 2 of them are major projects. We're not going to get started on those projects. I'm thinking of the 17-mile upgrade the sewer main and the Hillcrest replace sewer mains. Both of those are big ticket items, over $1.5 million each. And we have the funds. Is it a question of manpower?
Mayor Peak, I'll take this question. I would like to say it's not a question of manpower, but a question of timing. We had phase 9, which we had scheduled for last year or this current fiscal year, that we've done further videoing of lines throughout the year where we've had problems. So we've added to that phase 9, and now we're bringing this forth in this next fiscal year as part of the CIP. We're going to be doing significant sewer work next year with this phase 9 all over town. I feel that we should complete phase 9 and get that all wrapped up, and then let's begin the remainder of the sewer collection system master plan work. We've been kind of keeping these phase 9 projects, I'm not going to say deferring them or postponing them, but keeping them like, hey, we need to do this and we need to do this soon. But we were in the process of completing $4.5 million of work in conjunction with the ASBS project, which we just completed last fiscal year. While we were doing that $4.5 million worth of work, which took a lot of staff time, a lot of energy, a lot of all of Public Works manpower to manage that, we were deferring phase 9. I want to go and get phase 9 done, make sure that's done correctly, concentrate our efforts there, and then be able to put all of our true efforts in to the 17-mile drive project, which is number 1 on the sewer collection system master plan. That's going to be major. That's going to be coordination with Coastal Commission, Pebble Beach, how we're going to be diverting all of that through, that's all of Del Monte Park that we're going to be picking up there. It's major, major, major project. I want to be able to make sure that we have the right engineering team on that and that we've allocated our resources correctly.
So these phase 9 projects, and I'm not clear on what is a phase 9 projects, they don't show up in this CIP program.
I can explain what our phases are. So when I started in the Public Works, we were working on phase.
Are these, I'm sorry, are these capital projects?
100% they're capital projects, and they're improving the sewer collection system master plan. We also have a sewer system management plan, which if you recall in 2004, that plan was developed, which identified pipes that were D and F rated. We've replaced those through our phase projects. Now we're on phase 9. So as we've been doing this work outside of the sewer collection system master plan, we've called these phases. These are pipes that maybe we had a sanitary sewer overflow within the last year. So we videoed it and we've identified deficiencies, roots, maybe cracks in the pipes that are outside of the sewer collection system master plan that we need to fix also. That's what you're seeing here. It's a huge effort. They would be on this management plan also if we knew about them.
Oh, okay. So I think I'm understanding now.
Mhm.
you don't want to put them on the capital improvement program because you're still doing the videoing and the investigations. So you don't have a defined locations for this work, but during the year, later, after this capital improvement project, a budget is approved, you'll figure out what it is during the year we need to spend capital money on.
Let me rephrase this. We've already identified the line segments that need to be replaced.
But they're
We-
not in here, this
They're-
report.
They are in they are noted in the non-general fund project list on project number 5.
Okay, and apologies if I'm just.
They're not in the sewer collection system master plan because they've been identified after the sewer collection system master plan was approved and adopted. They've been identified as line segments that have known deficiencies and need to be replaced.
The bottom of page 1 on the non-general fund project list.
Okay. All right, I see it here. Is it, my eyes, it's $850,000.
That's correct. And we've already expended about $250,000 on engineering and design and work that we've done already this fiscal year.
Okay. Well, thank you for the explanation. I obviously don't have all the pieces. And also what I'd heard from my email from you is that you could bring back a status of the sewer collection system master plan. We haven't had one in over 4 years, and you could come back to council and tell us where we are. We're well along the way into our 10-year plan. In fact, we're closing in on the end of our 10-year plan, really, right? So can I assume that you would come back? I think you said end of first quarter of the fiscal year. That would be September.
Of course, Your Honor, I'd be more than happy to bring forth all the great accomplishments that we've made in that sewer collection system master plan.
Excellent. And I will hold any further questions on that till later. Thank you for the explanations. And let's see. On the number 2, approve a resolution adopting the SB1 project list. I didn't hear any comments other than support for that, maintenance of effort, right? So I'm good with that. On number 3, so I heard questions about deferral and that the fact that we'll have the ARPA survey. Well, first of all, so staff is with this report, staff has said, okay, $1 million of the ARPA funds, we're just going to absorb into our regular operating budget because we need that money there. And I'm not hearing any disagreement, or certainly any loud disagreement at this point. I think that's a very reasonable starting point. When we haven't seen the full budget, and when we see the full budget, then we may have other input on it. That's what I'm hearing. Mr. Harvey?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. May I offer the council through Ms. Hannah, because again, she is our ARPA expert. She's been pinging me with she wants to offer some commentary on a restriction she is aware of with ARPA fundings that could help the discussion a bit. Just take a second if we could call on her. She's virtual.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. The item that I just wanted to bring forward is that I just need to confirm whether or not ARPA funds could be used for a feasibility study. Sometimes feasibility studies are considered differently because it may not result in a final product, but just to put that information out there, that is something that we should be readily able to confirm prior to the next meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
So if I understand, thank you for those comments. So if I understand the intent here is the 800,000, 1.8 minus a million, 800,000 more or less. And that could be used on this deferred projects list. And the deferred projects list is prioritized. Just to state the obvious, number 1 is your highest priority and number 51 is your lowest priority. Okay, all right, just want to make clear, I guess, so I understood that. And I'd like to move the conversation along, sort of borrow that idea about maybe not landing on projects from the deferred list on tonight, though I will make a few comments since I have the microphone. But what I'm suggesting is that council members provide to staff between now and next week their preferred projects off the list. And please don't make it more than 800,000. Maybe later we can discuss that, but ballpark it to 800,000 and send your list in priority order to Mr. Harvey. And then it maybe cuts the conversation. Then I'm assuming that we're going to be talking about much fewer items on this list. And I think it's a good list. Some of the things that I heard that resonated with me, repair roofs. Yeah, okay, it doesn't rain very often, but when it does, we need the roofs repaired. So that and Chautauqua Hall, I certainly endorse that. The wig-wag lights at Robert Down, absolutely. I want to put forth an alternative, sort of a mini recycle water step, and that is instead of 21, which project number 21, that we could start with recycle to Caledonia, which was cost estimated at 55,000 as a start. Get one park, admittedly, it's the smallest park. And okay, here's my big pitch. David Avenue sidewalk between Patterson and Montecito. There are no sidewalks in Del Monte Park. But I think there's students that live there, and I'll bet some walk to school or to the stores. And that is absolutely my number 1 priority on safe routes to school and sidewalks. So, and that is number 51. So that's my number 1. That's $360,000. Anyhow, just plant a seed with my colleagues on that. And I'm not sure, Councilmember Tomlinson, the recreation boards have already had input. So I don't know, were you suggesting we go back to them and ask for, okay, all right. Because I think that would hold things up anyhow. So I'm happy to, as I said, defer on number 3 to a conversation next week when we hear the survey results. Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just add, one of the reasons I would like to defer is because I do think we could make a decision here tonight. However, the public has been told the survey is open still. And I know certain people have already written to me saying they're coming next week so that they can lobby for their item, to be considered. And so I think it's premature to rack and stack, although this list is very comprehensive and fantastic. The survey is going to not just tell us guidance of, yes, I see safety, I see streets coming out of the survey, but there may be some one-off ideas that weren't in the buckets of ideas from the survey, but I've seen the comments below in the survey and they're very interesting. And so I want the public to be able to come and participate and present it to everybody, not just those who are hawking the survey results. So we can and I don't think it'll take too long to program the 843,000 next week. But we should look at this list, and if you write out every single one of our boards and commissions and what they do and what they're charged with, you can actually take these projects and kind of say, oh, this one's traffic and safety, this one's kind of historic related, this one's recreation related, and you can see how every one of the boards and commissions has had some kind of input and could be represented. Even the DEI task force, with the walk of remembrance item, you can kind of put them out that way. And I'd like to program the money where it's not all heavily to one area over another. So I guess that being said, if I'm ready to make a motion, I would say that we could make a motion of item 1 and 2. Do you want them all 3 separate? That's what we said. So I guess my first motion would be item 1 as recommended, and that is to receive and approve the fiscal year 22-23 CIP to include in the operating budget, which we'll hear June 1st. June 1st.
Second.
May we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams,
Aye.
Councilmembers Emilio,
Aye.
Coletti.
Aye.
And Peduri.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Councilmember Tomlinson?
The
go ahead.
second motion is to approve a resolution adopting the fiscal year 22-23 SB1 project list.
Second.
And a vote, please.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmembers Emilio,
Aye.
Coletti.
Aye.
Peduri.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams,
Aye.
Mayor Peak.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
The third motion is to defer providing direction on the use of the ARPA funds for CIP projects.
Okay,
Till
don't
next
need a
week.
motion to
To defer?
defer. No,
Okay, sorry.
No. Unless Mr. Harvey has questions on that.
Thank you, Mayor, if you don't mind. So I was planning on bringing the ARPA survey results back at your next meeting, and it was going to be, an executive summary that here's what you received. Do you want me to also have, so that you can discuss it as part of that agenda item, provide direction to staff on use of remaining unprogrammed ARPA funds as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we need to have this discussion next week. Having the survey results after we've already decided does not make,
Well, you don't, okay, so
Sense.
just as a point of clarification, you don't have to decide the ARPA funding next week, okay? I mean, you can, if you're going to defer, we can take that amount, $843,000, and leave it as unprogrammed in the budget, and that can be decided by you anytime. I mean, I just want to that maybe that's obvious, but you're not at risk at
Mhm.
spending that money. It will be earmarked for that particular purpose, if you will. So you can certainly give direction with the survey results if you want next week. You can provide it when you adopt the budget on the 1st, or you can provide it, after you've had deliberations and discussions and, anything else that you want. But there's no requirement. The only requirement that we have is we have to book it as revenue. And we were going to do that.
Councilmember Coletti.
okay, well, I just, my preference is to go ahead and allocate it next week. Get those survey results. So as a part of that agenda report, have the recommendations, kind of a lot of a rinse and repeat of what's here, but we can provide some input this week, like the mayor suggested. And yeah.
Sorry, just to be a real pain in the neck. Councilman Thompson through the mayor. So we published the agenda for the 18th Friday morning. The survey closes on the 13th. I just want to be practical here. You can certainly have a discussion item and that's easy enough, taking that ARPA survey result and including, provide staff with direction on allocation or spending of ARPA funds. I don't know that if you all individually email me tomorrow, and I'm, let's say that everybody got back to me and I looked at all the different responses and tried to determine the concentric circles and use that to distill. I don't know if that, I don't feel super comfortable doing that in a day, making sure I've got everything right, making sure it's, does that make sense? And again, there's not a timeline.
Yeah,
on that.
actually, I was thinking it would be a poll and you'd come back with
Okay.
to help
Okay.
with the discussion. I heard,
Got it.
4
Okay.
council members wanted the roof on City Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Very good.
I
If-
think
If you're
just
comfortable with
that.
that, I didn't want to have this agenda report come out and everybody to say, well, what the heck, where's the recommendation?
Yeah, yeah. And to your point also, when the budget comes, we get another bite at the apple, right? And Councilmember Pedori might have another project, capital improvement project that comes up and we'll entertain that discussion, for example. I'm picking on you because you said you wanted more. So that's fine. It's good. We're not gonna shut that door down. Is that Councilmember Tomlinson? Is that?
Yeah, that's all my comments. I support next week having a discussion. I don't think we need to push it off further.
Okay, Councilmember Emilio.
Yes, I agree with that. But I think, Mr. Harvey, you have the information. I think we need to move on to the next item.
All right. Okay, any further comment on this one? I've gotten a couple of requests to take a recess. And so we'll come back at 7:20. We'll now resume with item 13B, apology for treatment of Chinese settlers and citizens. Mr. Harvey and Ms. Kendall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies. For this item, I would like to introduce Ms. Tina Rao, who is the Chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. Ms. Rao?
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Mayor Peak, members of the PG City Council, staff, and members of the community. I'd like to introduce the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force Secretary of the DEI since 2001, Kim Bowie. Secretary Bowie has a breadth of knowledge and experience, having served for 18 years at the City of Monterey, holding several positions, including Community Service Director and Library Director. She's also served at the County of Monterey as the Supervising Librarian and Library Branch Manager. Secretary Bowie also has a history of volunteerism, serving as the Board President of the PG Library and Board Member of the Literacy Campaign for Monterey County, as well as President of the California Library Association. Secretary Bowie will be giving the presentation on the proposed apology to the Chinese village settlers and descendants with the research she and the team undertook to come to this recommendation. Secretary Bowie, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Rao. Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public, and city staff. I am a member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, created by the council in 2021. Tonight, I'm bringing forward a recommendation for a city apology for the treatment of Chinese settlers and citizens, and for a public reading of the apology at the May 14th Walk of Remembrance. As is customary, the apology is presented as a formal city resolution. May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, a national recognition of Asian American Pacific Islanders' accomplishments and contributions. It seems very fitting that this apology is heard today. While this apology cannot change the past, it provides accountability for wrongs, takes a stand against anti-Asian hate that continues to cause harm and fear up to this day, provides an opportunity for learning, and creates a space for reconciliation, healing, and change with kindness. And here is the task force recommendation. An apology to Chinese village community and descendants for systemic discrimination, acts of fundamental injustice, violence, and cruelty, seeking forgiveness and committing to the rectification and redress of past policies and actions. Whereas the first men and women settlers from China arrived by ship before California statehood and were met with prejudice and discrimination. And whereas men and women of Chinese heritage and their American-born children settled into the coastline between Point Almejas and Point Alones in what is now Pacific Grove, creating a thriving community in 1851, the first commercial fishery on Monterey Bay, with fishing techniques and scientific discoveries still utilized today. And whereas the Point Alones fishing village became the largest Chinese fishing settlement in California, including women and children, growing from a few residents in 1844 to several hundred by 1906, welcoming those seeking refuge from the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, and was the first and largest family-based Chinese community in the United States at that time. And whereas in the early 1900s, growing anti-Chinese sentiment, town modernization, oceanfront real estate development, and resort interests resulted in the Pacific Improvement Company attempting to evict Point Alones residents from Chinatown in 1905. And whereas on the evening of May 16, 1906, a fire of suspicious origin swept through the Point Alones village, one of many suspicious fires that occurred in most California Chinatowns from the mid-1880s to early 1900s. And whereas unable to stop the fire, village residents rescued belongings while hundreds of spectators watched, cheered the flames, and looted those belongings as residents rushed back to save more, until only 15 of over 100 buildings were standing 2 hours later. And whereas on May 17th, 1906, local looters picked through warm ashes for village belongings, while that day and for months after, the Pacific Improvement Company erected fences, posted guards, forcibly removed residents refusing to leave, and tore down rebuilding efforts. And whereas following the destruction of the Point Alones village, a few residents and visitors noted the deplorable, disgusting spectacle of looters in a community dedicated to Christian principles, stating conscience, honor, delicacy, decency seemed thrown to the winds. However, a more common local sentiment was, we wish them to be removed so far that they will never be any more trouble. And whereas until May 1907, members of the Point Alones village community resisted removal through land occupation, rebuilding, intercession by the United States Army and Chinese consul, and legal means, such as a demand for surrender of real property suit filed in 1906 by attorneys for 35 named Chinese residents. And whereas in May 1907, after the last remaining village resident, Kwok Tok Lee, left for Monterey, the destruction of the Point Alones village, the removal of its men, women, children, and families, and the eradication of their community, heritage, and history was complete. Whereas the history of structural racism and discrimination against Chinese immigrants and their descendants in Pacific Grove reaches back over 170 years. And whereas in the 1850s, immigrants from China were considered aliens ineligible for citizenship, and therefore could not vote, hold office, own land, with no rights to testify against white citizens. And whereas in the 1870s, the Naturalization Act denied naturalization rights and access to citizenship to Asians, and the Page Law prohibited recruitment of laborers and women for immoral purposes and was primarily enforced against Chinese. And whereas in 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act specifically restricted Chinese immigrants, the first time a race and country of origin were so targeted, and was actively enforced for 61 years, including registration requirements, denial of bail, and bearing witness in court trials. And whereas in the 1890s, restrictive covenants were written into house deeds stating, the premises herein described shall not be in any manner used or occupied by Asiatics or Negroes. Buyers agree not to sell or lease the said property, excepting to persons belonging to the Caucasian race, nor to any lineal descendant, except that persons of said races may be employed as household servants. And whereas the effect of Pacific Grove's racial covenants is apparent in the change from the 1900 US Census record of 175 Chinese residing at Point Alones to the 1910 census records with 5 Chinese residents in Pacific Grove, 2 servants, 2 gardeners, and 1 laundryman. And whereas ruled illegal in the 1940s, these racial covenants can still be read in Pacific Grove property deeds to this day. And whereas in July of 1906, the Feast of Lanterns event was held half a mile from the burned, fenced, guarded Point Alones Chinese village site, occupied by protesting residents. And whereas revived in 1958, the Feast of Lanterns annual event featured racist and stereotypical caricatures of Chinese women and men, insensitivity towards the history of prejudice and Chinese persecution in Pacific Grove, and cultural appropriation of the authentic Chinese heritage looted and destroyed in the fire, and this event continued to be supported by the city of Pacific Grove into the 21st century. And whereas Chinese Americans have persistently fought back against discriminatory laws, structural cruelty, and systemic racism with every political, economic, and legal tool available to them, including civil disobedience at Point Alones. And whereas the rise in anti-Asian violence, racial discrimination, targeting, and scapegoating during the current pandemic is a shameful reminder of the ways the Chinese Americans of Point Alones and their descendants have been treated throughout our history. And whereas for over 50 years, the men, women, and children settlers of Chinese heritage, their American-born children and grandchildren, were able to settle, develop livelihoods, raise families, and create a thriving community at Point Alones in what became Pacific Grove, despite racist and discriminatory laws, prejudice, and harmful acts which touched every aspect of life, including housing, employment, education, marriage, and culture. And whereas the story of Pacific Grove's Chinese immigrants, Chinese American citizens, and the dehumanizing treatment committed against them in the 19th, 20th, and 21st century should not be purged, forgotten, or minimized in the telling of Pacific Grove's history. And whereas the city of Pacific Grove acknowledges and takes responsibility for the legacy of discrimination against early Chinese immigrants and subsequently against their descendants and others as part of our collective consciousness that helps contribute to the current surge in anti-Asian and Pacific Islander hate crimes. And whereas the experience of Chinese immigrants in Pacific Grove can be used to build solidarity with other immigrant and marginalized communities here and in Monterey County, as similar discrimination and racism was and still is experienced by other communities. Whereas in 2010, the Pacific Grove City Council addressed modifying race-based restrictive covenants. In May 2011, May 2012, May 2013, and May 2019, the Pacific Grove City Council recognized the Point Alones Chinese fishing village and the many contributions made by the Chinese community then and now, and the Walk of Remembrance. In September 2014, the city unveiled a plaque dedicated to the memory of the Chinese fishing village to bring recognition to the site of the village. And whereas a genuine apology for the role of the city in this history and legacy is an important and necessary step in the process of healing, reconciliation, and redress. And whereas the city of Pacific Grove joins other California cities, including Antioch, San Jose, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, who have issued apologies for their histories of discrimination and violence towards the Chinese community, Chinese settlers, citizens, and their descendants. And whereas an apology for grievous injustices cannot erase the past, but admission of the historic wrongdoing committed can aid us in healing the pain of the past and solving the critical problems of discrimination and racism facing Pacific Grove and the broader United States today. Therefore, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force recommends that the council determines that each of the findings set forth above is true and correct, and by this reference incorporates these findings as an integral part of this resolution. That the council apologizes to Chinese settlers, citizens, immigrants, and their descendants who came to Pacific Grove before and after it became a city and were the victims of institutional racism, prejudice, and discrimination. That the council acknowledges the acts of fundamental injustice, prejudice, and harm against the residents of the Point Alones fishing village community and their descendants, whose effects linger to this day. That the council apologizes to the memory of those whose dignity was assailed, whose voices were silenced, whose homes were burnt, whose belongings were looted, whose community was destroyed and scattered, and whose stories and history were lost or hidden due to racism, fear, protectiveness, or shame. That the council acknowledges the legacy of racism, prejudice, and discrimination from the city's treatment of Chinese residents, racist home deeds, longtime support of the Feast of Lanterns, and indifference to the lasting effects of institutionalized racism and the threat of personal harm. That the council recognizes the contributions, resilience, and persistence of the Chinese community and their descendants' commitment to seeking the truth, fostering reconciliation and friendship, and change with kindness. That the council resolves to rectify the lingering consequences of discriminatory actions and policies of the city, and to use this resolution as a learning moment for the public to move away from prejudice and racism towards inclusion, equity, and justice for all. That the council commits to programs and policies that can educate the community about this painful history of discrimination and its ongoing consequences, as well as provide for rectification and redress. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that is the end of the presentation. Back to you now.
Sorry, had the microphone turned off. Public comment, please. Welcome.
I'd like to particularly thank the DEI task force and particularly Secretary Kambui for the work that they and she did on this resolution and urge the council to adopt it. As a longtime resident of Pacific Grove, it is a gift for me to be able to be represented in this way for the apology that I think is so long overdue from past and current residents of Pacific Grove. I have attended many city council meetings sitting next to my friend Jerry Lo Sabado. I can't pretend to know what she would think, but I can guess that she would be very pleased to have come to this point of an apology, even no matter how long overdue it is. The apology contains a lot of information, and that factual information about our true history was so important to Jerry that be known, and to have it actually, the potential of having this actually entered into the public record, I think is huge. We have a lot more to do. I think we have more events to examine, for instance, in addition to the Feast of Lanterns. And I look forward to our community doing the hard work of looking at what we have to look at. But I think this is an excellent step. And again, my appreciation to the task force.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, my name is Sue Paris, and I don't know if I said that, but I'm a longtime resident.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Peak, City Council members, and city staff. It's good to see you in person. My name is Randy Sabado. I want to thank you all for your service to the community. And I want to thank the DEI task force for bringing this resolution forward. I'm here tonight to witness this historic vote and to speak in support of the apology resolution to the Chinese community. I'm here to put a face and a voice to a community that has gone faceless and voiceless and has waited and waited and waited for 170 years for this acknowledgement and apology for the social injustices inflicted on people who just wanted to live their lives in peace and be treated equally and fairly. The Chinese community was purposely legislated against and excluded from participating in the American dream and achieving the promises of equality and freedom. What's really sad is that even after 170 years, some of the things have not significantly changed. Imagine what it's like to be born in this country
work hard, be a good citizen, and yet still be blamed for economic problems and a pandemic just because of your ethnicity. The apology doesn't erase the past injustices, but it's the start of a new beginning, a beginning in which there is an acknowledgement of the past and current injustices and a commitment to do better. Passing this resolution sends an unequivocal message to the rest of the state of California and the entire country that Pacific Grove stands with the cities of Antioch, San Jose, San Francisco, and Los Angeles to say that past acts of racial hatred and violence is wrong. It will not be tolerated or accepted. By passing this resolution, you will be living up to your core values of celebrating diversity, being fair and equitable to all. I cannot think of a better way to celebrate Asian American Island Heritage Month than passing this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on our virtual audience?
I see two hands raised, Mr. Mayor. Brenda Wong.
Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I okay? Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am Brenda He Wong and a board member of the Chinese Historical and Cultural Project in San Jose. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Also, thank you for acknowledging and finding a way to help Pacific Grove become a community that moves away from prejudice and racism and works towards inclusion, equity, and justice for all. The efforts in writing the 29 findings for resolution number 22 allows those in your community, and especially the youth, to have a resource document and to know of actions that are part of Pacific Grove's history. All must be allowed to know history, be it pleasant or not. Your leadership in the presentation of the findings allows the youth and community members to know that you wish to model a strong, forward-moving community that acknowledges and apologizes for mistakes when they're made. Your acknowledgement of the legacy of racism, prejudice, and discrimination from the city's treatment of Chinese residents, racist home deeds, longtime support of the Feast of Lanterns, and indifference to the lasting effects of institutionalized racism and the threat of personal harm signals that these negative actions must not continue to be hidden or forgotten. I want to thank you for working with Randy and Jerry Losabado for many, many years, and finally having this council meeting for resolution of apology to the Chinese, especially those in the Point Alonis fishing villages, those of past, present, and future. Passing the resolution number 22 is a great tribute to Jerry Losabado and all those who want to help make Pacific Grove a more fraternal and united community. It is commendable that the council recognizes the contributions, resilience, and persistence of the Chinese community and their descendants' commitment to seek the truth, foster reconciliation and friendship, and change with kindness. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Telephone number ending in 091.
Welcome.
I'm sorry, am I on?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Peak and council members, DEI Task Force and Recreation Commissioners. My name is Kathy Biala, a resident of Marina. I wish to describe my first reaction after reading this draft resolution. As an Asian American, though not of Chinese descent, my immediate response was of a deeply personal one, of being awestruck that such an incredibly beautiful and thoroughly researched document could actually be before this body for approval today. It is as if our collective sad Asian histories were now finally being made public with sensitivity and comprehensiveness of the tragic past and honoring our present lived experiences. Since I am Japanese American with extended family, having been interned as citizens in World War II, this recurrence of a public apology now stimulates both the sad reminder that racist history does in fact repeat itself, but also that there can be true acts of contrition as evidenced by this apology, that we can say out loud that as a society, we deplore racism and will not allow it to be swept under the rug when it shows its ugly face. All of you in Pacific Grove have listened bravely and steadfastly to those whose experiences have been suppressed as a continuation of historical and current racism. You have chosen to know the truth about the hatred vented upon so many hapless people merely because they are of a different color. Your actions today in the very place where we live and work and recreate, not in some far off place, but right here, are a restoration of and recommitment to the principles upon which our democracy has been conceived and flourished. Thank you all from the deepest place in my heart.
Thank you.
Taylor Lee.
Welcome.
Hi there, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to say to the Pacific Grove City Council and to the DEI committee how much I really appreciate this resolution. My name is Taylor Lee. I'm a 7th generation descendant of the village and share some common ancestors with Jerry Lozabado. I'll be real here, you know, hearing this resolution and all that you guys are trying to do right now, it brought tears to my eyes. You know, I think about what my ancestors had to go through generation after generation just to give me the opportunity to be here today. You know, it's one of the things that's difficult about this is, you know, I've been to Pacific Grove many times. It's a beautiful city, but I know on the one hand, I'm an outsider, and I think everyone that's a descendant is an outsider. None of us live there anymore. And yet our roots are there. We helped build Pacific Grove. And, you know, it's tough to figure out what that process looks like for reconciliation, but I think this is a really beautiful first step. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I hope that we can continue this conversation and figure out what that long-term looks like. But thank you for taking this first step and for moving forward with this.
Thank you.
Telephone number 091.
Welcome.
Hello, it's Janet Cohen, and sorry that I messed up earlier. And I thought you said my number, but anyway, thank you in advance for approving the resolution apology and the resolution being publicly read this Saturday at the Walk of Remembrance. Thank you also to Secretary Bowie and Member Mark of the DEI Task Force for working so hard on this apology. Secretary Bowie's beautiful writing explains the sad sequence of events for which an apology is necessary. It is fitting that she also personally knew Jerry Lozabado, a 5th generation descendant of the Pacific Grove Chinese Fishing Village. Ms. Bowie supported Jerry Lozabado's tireless efforts to bring back the forgotten acknowledgement the village at Point Alonas, Point Almahis even existed. By featuring Ms. Lozabado lecturing at the Monterey Public Library about the Chinese Fishing Village in Pacific Grove while Ms. Bowie was director, and including Jerry Lozabado's family in Shades of Monterey, a video production project recording people's life and history in the Monterey area. She helped her having an important public educational voice that expanded exponentially through Jerry Lozabado's own incredible advocacy. Forgetting the Chinese Fishing Village was on the land now occupied by Stanford's Hopkins Marine Station and under part of the world famous Monterey Bay Aquarium is a piece of the apology that can actively be rectified. We can all be grateful to Jerry Lozabado, a 5th generation descendant of the village, for helping us remember the group of pioneers that lived there for greater than 50 years, their daily lives with families, who through hard work and diligence also developed the squid fishery and the first large-scale fishing commercial enterprise on the Monterey Peninsula, thus making a difference so that their children could and later did succeed. A suspicious fire failed to take their efforts away. In the mid-1800s, those that came from China against all odds made a life here on these shores, including families, only to lose most everything and yet persevered. It's an American story of resilience in the face of tragedy, and this apology will help to formally record forever, hopefully, more completely, just what was overcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other hands are raised, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll bring it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Pedori.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to read something that I wrote. The events from 1906 present a very sad chapter in Pacific Grove's history. In order to heal, we must face and tackle subjects that we have avoided, apologize for the wrongs that we have committed, and follow them up with actions that promote positive change. This apology, while long overdue, is a significant step in the right direction. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the staff, the DI task force, and in particular Secretary Buie for the hard work done in researching and bringing all the facts to the table. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the Sabado family. There isn't a better time than now to bring about change through kindness. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate the DEI subcommittee who drafted this resolution and apology. And thank you so much for reading it in full, putting the resolution and apology on our record, as well as solidifying the city's history within the resolution. Per the resolution, the city lost the formal recognition and gratitude to the Chinese fishing village between the years of May 2013 and May 2019. So I am grateful that we're back on track, and I really will look to the DEI to make sure that the city keeps on track with that annual recognition. I would like to encourage this council, not only do we pass these words, hear them and pass them, but as we move forward in the city's journey of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we really have our actions reflect the words that is in this policy, in this resolution and apology. I would like to thank this council for allowing the DEI to form, and really, I am so impressed with their work that they have done in such a quick amount of time, which I think really speaks to the amount of work that is needed within our city. So thank you to my colleagues for supporting this group and endeavor. Ms. Bowie, thank you for reading this. And I think that, I know for me, I definitely emotionally impacted by the words that are in this apology and resolution. And that really speaks to how beautifully you crafted this. So thank you. And Councilmember Pedori is correct. There's more work to be done, but I am really proud how far the city has come in a year. So I look forward to more good work around this. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. So tonight we did hear a lot of moving testimony. I was moved by the testimony tonight in here. I think it really gave some real examples live and over Zoom, and also the actual resolution document providing examples of racism. And it was moving testimony. The city, racism to me is non-tolerable in any form. And I think the city is moving towards an equity position. I think that this is one step. This is one example of that. And I think that the creation of the DEI task force is kind of the way in which the city is moving in that direction and as an arm for that. So I'm appreciative of this being brought forward. And just want to thank everybody for the input from email, the public, and those that came to speak tonight. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will echo that this is very well done, Ms. Bowie, and to the DEI task force. Thank you for all the work that's gone into it. I am sorry that it has taken this long to have something, but I will say that this is for an apology and a resolution to happen. Having it done this exquisitely is something to be proud of. So thank you for doing that. And thank you to Mayor Pro Tem McAdams and Councilmember Pedori and the whole council, but primarily led by them, to form the DEI task force, which I think is clear. It's become more and more clear all year long how important that is, and that it will continue and that there is work to be done. This is a very important subject to have tackled in such a thorough way. And I support the resolution. I also support the reading of this resolution at the walk on Saturday in its entirety. If I could nominate Ms. Bowie to do the reading, she does it beautifully. I'm not sure who's slated to do that, but you did a great job. And thank you to the people who are here tonight. My sincere apologies to all the acts that have happened that made people feel less than. It is not okay and cannot be tolerated. So thank you.
Councilmember Emilio.
Thank you. I will also echo what's been said, but I just wanted to add that thank you, Secretary Kim Bowie, for reading that. My voice would have cracked if I had to read the whole thing, but you did a tremendous job. And for Mr. Sabato, I have to say I apologize also personally. I hope that we can move forward in a positive direction. And I also support the resolution, apology to the Chinese village community, and approve the resolution for the Walk of Remembrance. And I also would encourage Secretary Kim Bowie to read it. She did an outstanding job doing that. But thank you.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too appreciate Mr. Sabato's presence. Thank you, and for your comments and for being here tonight. And I also want to acknowledge the research, painful research that was carried out. I would approve the resolution.
And I'll echo all the comments of my colleagues here. Thank you, Mr. Sabato, for coming tonight, and of course, all the efforts over the years from Jerry Los Sabato as well. And I very much appreciate the DEI task force. I know Mayor Pro Tem McAdams and Councilmember Pedori were key advocates right from the start. I appreciate their efforts to bring us where we are today, and look forward to the DEI task force efforts to bring us even further into the future. Well, I think we're ready for a motion. Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll make the following motion to approve a resolution of apology to the Chinese village community and descendants, and to also approve the resolution be publicly read at the May 14th, 2022 Walk of Remembrance.
Second.
May we have a vote, please? Oh, discussion on the motion.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I wanted to know have we designated for the second item, who is reading at the May 14th Walk of Remembrance? Is that somebody from the council? Or does it need to be some?
I'll amend the motion and ask that Secretary Kim Bowie read for us. Thank you.
I believe just the mechanics of the process, an apology from the city should be coming from the city council, not exactly a board or a commission. So we should designate somebody from our group to read at the May 14th event.
Would you like to volunteer?
I would suggest either you or would Mayor Pro Tem be interested to volunteer? If not, I'm happy to pick it up.
All right. Thank you very much for volunteering.
Okay. I'll amend the motion that Councilmember Pedori will be present at the May 14th, 2022 Walk of Remembrance, and will read the resolution.
And I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, may we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Coletti,
Aye.
Councilmember Emilio,
Aye.
Councilmembers Baduri,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Tomlinson,
Aye.
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much, everyone. Now moving on to the next item of business. It's item 14A. It's a Q alert presentation. Mr. Kasimi.
Hello, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. Ms. Lindstrom, if you could please share my presentation in PowerPoint. We are excited that we have completed the implementation of our new Citizens Request Management software, Q Alert, and we are ready to go live with it or publish it on our website on this coming Friday, May 13th. This tool will allow the city to receive, manage, and respond to service requests or general inquiries from our residents in an efficient manner. Next slide, please. Here is a short video that explains what it is.
How do you manage citizen service requests? With Q Alert, you can simplify tasks for staff, improve response time to issues, and enhance communication with your residents. Through Q Alert's self-service web portal, which includes an integrated knowledge base and submission form, and its smartphone apps, your residents report issues that are routed directly to the most appropriate staff members for resolution. Employees receive email notices of submitted requests. Logging into Q Alert, they can take action by adding activities, rerouting requests to others, and linking similar requests for streamlined management. By inserting reusable comments, staff can quickly add information to the request record and notify submitters of progress via email, text message, phone call, or tweet simply by checking a box. Staff can have an informed conversation about an issue internally or with your citizens simply by reviewing the request history. As one of the most easy-to-use and cost-effective citizen request management tools available, Q Alert has everything you need to simplify the service request process.
So now, how do our residents access this tool? There are two ways to access it. First would be through our links that we would have on our website. And the second way would be through the mobile app that's available on Google Play Store on Android devices and Apple App Store on iOS devices. So here are the two places we're going to publicize this on our website. This is on our homepage. As you can see, the service request quick link icon, this would be the first icon. This will appear on the 13th. and through the How Do I top menu option. Once you click on How Do I, this would be the first image that would appear to the right. We might have just two images that would be the service request and the calendar. Once one of those links are clicked, it would redirect the residents to this QAlert web page or portal. And there's going to be this option to request for service. And there would be links available on this page to the Android and Apple apps. Now, once we get into the service request, the request for service, and this is what's going to show up. There will be an option to pick a location, and this is through the web access, and you could use the current location, the GPS location navigator on the device, or manually enter the location of where you want to report the issue, or the citizens or the residents would like to report the issue. There's going to be an option to select the type of the issue from the various different categories that we have created and add pictures, up to 5 pictures of the affected, whether it's a pothole or a fallen tree limb, or an issue with a tree or something like that. Here are all the different types of issues through that drop down that our residents would be able to select. Just to have a glance at it. Next would be the option for the resident to provide their information, and an option for the resident to get notified on any updates on their service request. This will be the final screen that will be shown, and there will be an ID that will get created. It will be logged into our system. And as it says, the request has been registered and forwarded to appropriate representative for action, and a report of our progress on the issue will be sent to the submitter, the residents. This is an example of an email the residents would get as a confirmation of their service request. This is our QAlert app that can be found and installed on mobile devices, such as iOS devices or Android devices. So a resident could just go to their Google Play Store or Apple App Store and type in Pacific Grove, and My Pacific Grove is the name of our QAlert app. And they will see this with our the city's seal as the emblem on the app, and they could choose to just install it on their device. These are some of the screenshots of how the app actually looks like and what options are available through the app. There is this main option of the service request, which is the big button. And then that the next screen would allow them to choose a location of the issue, and following which they would create an account and register and submit the service request that way. Here are all the categories that are shown in an app format. And once the category is selected, then it will ask just for the comments and attach the option to attach any photos. And that concludes my brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
I do not see any hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Council discussion? Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mohammed. This is fantastic. I I love that it's mobile and it can go on the app as well as on the the regular computer. And of course, I like everything that you've presented, and then I want to know about these other buttons. So the recreation program, the weekly reports. My question is, would we make them available and populate them at some point as well? That's one question. Oh, go ahead.
Those other buttons at this point are merely redirecting to our web pages on our website.
Okay, great. Does this program, do you know if it has a function of pushing information? So where everyone who's, let's say, has the app and has an account, we could do a push notification for a down tree or a power outage through this Q alert. Is that something that we'd want to do, or that function's available?
If I could maybe jump in on that we do have Nixle and reverse 911. We're coming off of our ICS and EOC operation earlier today, and that's more appropriate for that functionality than this functionality.
Okay, so we do that with a different platform. Okay, and then my last comment was just, in your list of items, the pull down, I see like fire other and tree other. I think I would just have an other and it like other all by itself for something that somebody would want to report that isn't somehow on this list, even though it's a very comprehensive list. But this is great. Thank you for the report.
Mayor Pro Tem McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for setting this up and presenting it to council. I'm wondering, staff-wise, who will be receiving all of the alerts?
So at this point, we have Public Works that would be receiving a majority of the requests. Along with Public Works, we have police receiving the requests as well. And then we have, it's basically for the entire city. And the rest of the categories and some of the areas where that are not Public Works, under Public Works or police will be received and relayed through by the city clerk's office.
If I could just jump in there, Mr. Kasimi, Mayor Pro Tem McAdams, please indulge me for a moment. I think it's important for the council to also know that it has an escalation feature. So if an item goes to a particular, and it's configurable, it goes to a particular department or employee and it ages for a certain amount of time, it will then get escalated at a configurable date to a department head or supervisor for action.
Great, thank you so much. I'm definitely encouraged and look forward to having our residents utilize this. I already use the form that we have on the website, and actually I provide the link a lot when residents email with various complaints or Public Works needs. I think, once they see the link, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed. So people are very grateful when they realize that we have a mechanism. And I think that this is just making it even easier. And also, thank you for the recent website changes. It's fantastic, and it's much more easier to navigate. And I have also signed up for the text alerts. So when a web page on the city's website changes, I get a notification. And that is very helpful as well. So I would encourage the residents. We have lots of neat tools on our website that are very helpful. And, you know, you can always reach out to council or Mr. Mohammed for assistance. So thank you so much.
Councilmember Paduri.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mohammed, for the presentation and for getting this out there. Personally, the more tools that we provide to the community, the better we are. And looks like we're getting to a stage where we have more than one tool. And if that's the case, it may not be a bad idea in the website to reflect the tools that are available for the community to use. So just a thought in your head. But I had a question. The system is called Q Alert. So what does that exactly mean? Is this like a two-way notification process? You log in a ticket or something, and as soon as somebody responds, you get a real-time notification saying, "I'm on my way to address your issue," stuff like that.
Well, Q Alert is just a brand name or the, you know, from the company. So Q Alert doesn't is not much of a significance for us. We just need to understand that this is our citizens request management tool.
So it just captures tickets and
Right.
escalates.
Right. So we would use this tool to receive requests from our residents and to process the request and notify them.
Okay.
If I could jump in, the other exciting thing about this is, of course, it is now on your phone as a mobile app. So as you're out walking around and you see a pothole, and you want to make sure the city is aware of it, boom, take a picture. You have the app on your phone. You've got the coordinates of where this has taken place. So we can use that, especially flash forward to when we have the GIS master plan in place. Everything has, you know, that DNA on it. So we can also know, you know, you've got a project this location. Wow, well, we've received 35 requests for service at this particular location. This looks like a hotspot. You know, it's got more than just an address.
Okay. I didn't examine the list in detail, but speaking of hotspots, maybe there's like an urgent kind of thing that needs to be in there saying if this is a certain hotspot, then an immediate trigger needs to happen. And I would also think that in the future, speaking of GIS, you would want to integrate this with the PGPD to see how both of these are interconnected. So, but thank you. This is very helpful.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was wondering how much this service costs per year. Is it a subscription service? Does anyone have an idea what this service cost?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top. I think it was about 1,500. I'm not sure if Miss Hannah, I'm not sure if I would defer that to her if she remembers.
Actually, I don't have the overall price cost on hand. I know that the annual cost was, I believe, under $10,000. But we would have to research that. Councilmember Coletti, through the mayor, just one other thing that I'd like to point out is that with the software system as well, when you create a login ID, you can see where the status of your item is and if it has been completed or if it has been assigned to someone. So that is another feature that is available with it.
Okay, thank you for that. But this is not going to be used for any code compliance complaints, is it? This is just for services that are being requested. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will just point out that I just became aware of the city's page. It's called the e-notify. So if you go to the city's website, just put in e-notify in the search bar. You'll come up with some really good links for keeping you up to date, either via email or text. I didn't know we had an item in there for getting updates on RFQs. Just found that out this week. So that's something hopefully that you'll be able to link to as well through this. And thank you for the report.
Councilmember Emilio.
Thank you, Mayor. Two questions, actually. I imagine for letting the public know about this, it would probably be on your city update on that, Mr. Harvey. And then the other thing is, Mohammed, is a super presentation, and especially being short of staff, doing this all yourself practically. So wanted to compliment you on that.
I also want to thank Mohammed for the presentation today. I have a worry that this works too well and that the people that write in have expectations that you know, that small pothole in front of their house is going to get fixed like tomorrow. Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Mayor, you're very well founded in your concern. In fact, we had many lengthy conversations because this is so easy also that we are going to receive a large number of requests and we won't be able to get to them as quickly as we want to. And so what I had to explain to the department heads is this is a tool. This is going to make things better for the citizenry. And we're going to have to come back to you and provide you with a status update as to how it's going and, you know, whether this was a good thing or not. But I think overall, this is not new for cities. I'm sure you all know that. This is something that's been out there and something that we've wanted to do for a long time. And so I just assured the department heads that this is the right thing to do and we're going to do our best. And if we need to come back to you because we need to modify this or modify that or change staffing to address this or that, then that's something that the council can help us with. A consideration.
Yeah, understood. So how do you, for people, and there'll be some people that will be frequent flyers on this and a lot of people that won't even know about it. So how do you establish the expectations that for those folks?
Another excellent question. And again, admittedly, I think we're going to have to come back to you and give you an update on that. I just want to, where I thought you were also going with that is this is going to dovetail with our database, our iWork database, which we have people monitoring and queuing through and so forth. But I totally agree with you. I think it's going to need to provide you with an update and say, well, we've got 40,000 service requests. We got to 4,000 of them, whatever it is. I hope it's not that ratio, but we will do that.
And just my last comment is at some point, well, you'll be creating a database, obviously. And at some point, it would be helpful for council, maybe on a periodic basis for council to know what people are calling in about. Because I suspect when the folks use this, they'll think, oh, council members everybody's alerted and working on this for their item.
So if I could, again, this is another important point. You're absolutely right. This provides another tool on the reporting side. And so it gives you more information to deal with. It's using an existing database, one that we already have here. And Mr. Kasimi, I think I'm stating this correctly, right? It's dovetailing with iWork. I've said that now twice. I hope I'm correct about this. Am I right about that?
This is isolated from iWork.
Of course, I'm wrong. We had a lot of conversations about this and I obviously left out before the conversation ended, but okay, we do have a database.
Okay, maybe one will go away. Maybe our work will go away or you'll figure it out. Okay, it's received the presentation comments. I think Councilmember McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor. I had one question sort of piggybacking on Councilmember Coletti's comment about code compliance. Is that one of the options to notify code compliance of a car that's been parked too long or a noise complaint, something along that line, those lines, since you are routing to the police department? Can we also route to code compliance as well?
We don't have a code compliance category that we did not create. I think we're using iWorks for code compliance. I'm not sure if we have anyone from the CDD who could speak to that, but I think we are using the iWork tool for code compliance to my knowledge.
Or even, I mean, I'm thinking like on the weekends, if there's a loud party or, you know, something like that, like, is there a way to route those types of complaints that would come into the police department, since they're going to be getting non-emergency stuff?
Yes,
If I could
we
jump
do
in,
have that.
If I could jump in really
Sorry.
quickly, we deliberately, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem McAdams, we wanted to first, the short answer is you can use it for that function if you have the infrastructure in place to do so. And we were concerned about making sure that we could use this for more, if you will, pedestrian type matters successfully before we started moving into something where there was a, you know, potential for a hearing down the road or a citation and that type of thing. So that was our thought.
Okay, so at some point that could probably be incorporated.
Yes, the short answer is we could come back with that later. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Thank you to the public who have been participating here in person and virtual. Thank you for staff for being part of the meeting, and my colleagues. Thank you very much. Everybody, good night.
Have a nice evening.
Good night.